Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Groyper Report. Tonight, we have some groundbreaking news to share with you.
Welcome to the Groyper Report. Introducing the most racist men alive. They are shutting it down as we speak. Welcome to the Groyper Report. Sexist. Racist. Phobic this, phobic that. Terrorizing women across the country. Telling them to wear clothes. Saying all women are mid. Minorities fear them. The president has them on speed dial.
Guess what? Your body, my choice.
Brought to you by Frog Aura Maxing. Brought to you by Frog. CashApp Central, yes, thank you for asking. They all must go. Welcome to the one and only. Defending the last white men on Earth. AtlasThugged and Josh Van Der Nord. This is the Groyper Report.
Hello and welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Groyper Report. And right now, I'm alone. I'm by myself. I'm solo, and we are waiting for Mello. Hopefully, he comes to the studios soon. We have a special edition for the Groyper Report for you tonight. Actually, it actually was not supposed to be just me, but I forgot Mello was on Central Time, and I think we forgot to communicate the hour difference. Regardless, I decided I was going to go ahead and go live. I didn't want to wait too much further. I know everybody expected at 8 p.m. Eastern, but here we are. So forgive me for the black space beside me, but we are ultimately going to be filling that later on here. I want to keep it within the first couple of scenes that we do have. But you guys know me. I can do it solo. It's fine. It's okay. I can handle. I can carry. I can do it. But good to see everybody in here. Smelly Balls, Emily Goat, Zeb Boykin, and Frankie's Beats, SSBX. Nice to see you all in here as well. Capo, and if I missed anybody, I do apologize. But thank you guys for being here. We have a good episode. It's a Superchat Central, and we are the one network not afraid to say Christ is King. And we have a first couple of Superchats we're going to get into. Superchats, I should say. Clips from Nick from the America First show. I guess I should say the America First movement, but it's more the America First show we're going to be watching clips of. And everybody kind of knew it right off of the rip, actually, that we were not going to be getting a show of America First last night. And the reason being was because these Super Chats have been bad. They've been rough this week and have been giving us some pretty good moments. However, I would say, though, that there has been some good responses to the Super Chats overall. And one of those clips was referenced as perhaps maybe the best response to a Super Chat we've ever seen, we've ever gotten. And that was actually in reference to a theological Catholic Protestant kind of back and forth, a tiff, if you will. And I think Nick answered that greatly. Some of the other clips we'll be going through is going to be amplifying the message of the reality of where the Democrats and the left sits, which is the fact that where the left is at on housing and economic policy, no matter which way you want to cut it, they have quite literally become more America First than what the current iteration of the right wing is. The Republican Party, the MAGA movement, whatever you want to call it at this point. The left is by far and away, even if they're giving immigrants and Black Americans and LGBTQ and queer and all this, that money's still at least going to America. The idea and the push is obviously still going to Americans. Now, we might not like why it's going to them. We may not like the description of them being American, But regardless, the money not going to Israel is still obviously preferred. And I even went so far as to say on the show, now on Offensively Accurate, even if it was all funneled to Black American welfare, I would still prefer that to the money being sent overseas, whether it goes to Israel, whether it goes to Ukraine, whether it goes to, I mean, you could put a plethora of places there. So we're going to be looking at taking a look at the clip that he had there. We're also going to have probably going back and recalling back to, I think it was on Monday, where Nick talked about the death of Lindsey Graham and what seems to be, I thought even a little bit suspicious when it had first happened, given just how sudden it was. Regardless, though, no matter how sudden it was, it seems to be that we've also not gotten anything meaningful about it, actually. And so I think, in the words of Nick talked about how there's kind of more coincidence and incidents of this having suspicious elements to it in the death of Lindsey Graham, and he was comparing it to Charlie Kirk. Even taking Charlie Kirk away and taking Charlie Kirk out of it, it is kind of a bit curious, forgive me, that we did not and have not gotten more information about that beyond what had actually happened. Now, again, I think there was obviously some weirdness about it overall, but kind of curious how it's almost fallen out of the news cycle completely. What was even more weird and more disgusting about the death of Lindsey Graham was the fact that the result of that turned into a bunch of gaslighting. And the gaslighting came in the form of many people who you were to go back, just 2, 3, 4, 5 years. For many of these people, you could just go back a year and a half, essentially, and you would find that they had a entirely different opinion about Lindsey Graham than they do today. And the reason for that, I think we can speculate, largely due to the fact that Lindsey Graham, through this last year and a half, has walked his way into the, or did previously, and again, he has passed. I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, but specifically speaking ill of the people who lied about what they thought of him. And so that speculation can only really be seen and matched with the fact of, are these people trying to carry the company line? Is this being carried for the specific element of, well, Trump, he endorsed him. He was in the good graces of Donald Trump. So we're going to say good things about him because we don't want to piss off Donald Trump. And sometimes some people are going a little bit further than that. I had actually specifically went at John Doyle specifically for this because John Doyle was, we went well past trying to speak, well of a person. We went into full glaze mode. John Doyle became a Krispy Kreme factory, and the product was Lindsey Graham's legacy. The wild part about it was just to hear, again, how deep he was going to be going at it, which was calling him, dare I say, patriot. This is one of the moments I actually put, kind of visualized on the show, as well as in the video, too, because going so far as to calling him a patriot, just kind of trying to redefine or really omit the definition of what even makes a neoconservative, and doing so in such a way that just obviously disingenuous, but shameless. I would go so far as to say overtly shameless and kind of pathetic, if you were asking me. We also have, and I'm going to wait for, hopefully for Mello to get here. I will save it towards the end. It is the specific fact and clip of the fact that Nick went at the Confederacy and this idea of what it means for what the Civil War was being fought for, and looking back at some of what Lincoln was attempting to do in response to another one of these super chats. Hence, the reason why we're named Super Chat Central. A lot of these clips we'll be playing today are responses to super chats, and I think it was hilarious. And I think that it in and of itself generated a discourse online. So much so, many of you have already seen this, but there are Confederates organizing a targeting campaign towards Nick and Groypers because of this. This was caught and posted by a couple of different Groypers, I believe Fish Groyper and then Kaiser Rev also, or no, it was a Suga Groyper, forgive me, had quote tweeted or then reposted and amplified many of these posts. A lot of them are, we're going to coordinate, we're going to pick a specific Groyper to go at, and all under the banner of, I would imagine, Dixiecrats or Confederate or whatever. So I thought that was kind of fun and funny, given the fact of how, again, just one of these other super chats that just generates such a negative response from people. And it's also just funny. And I think he's correct in a way. But again, there's a bit more history inside of there that was obviously talked about in the super chat, which we can get into. There is no moderate position on Israel. And this actually is what was said in response to J.D. Vance's appearance on Rogan. And the reason why Nick gave this response was because of how JD Vance was clearly trying to postulate himself as being this, you don't have to go, you don't have to be against the Jews, you don't have to be for the Jews. I'm the middle of the road moderate on this issue. And we watched and explored when I think, again, one of the other better shows, it's hard to say even better, one of the best shows of Nick, and Nick's been kind of on a roll in these last couple of weeks, but really taking aim and dissecting and breaking down all of what was actually said by JD Vance on Joe Rogan and breaking down the subtleties of the behavior of not Joe Rogan, forgive me, of JD Vance and the way that he kind of engaged with the question. But furthermore, beyond his kind of riffs on what JD Vance was doing, the fakeness of his laugh, and I have to be honest with you, I went back and listened to the beginning of the Joe Rogan episode just to actually hear it for myself because I was only listening to the Joe Rogan episode in clips. But I did go back to the beginning, and the reason I went back to the beginning was because Nick pointed this out specifically. I go back to the beginning of the episode, and sure enough, within like 15, 20 seconds of the episode even starting, JD Vance is like fake laughing into the microphone. And I can't even remember what was even said because it was one of those open roles. Many of you who have watched Joe Rogan will understand this. The show doesn't have a typical intro. It has like the monkey, making the noise in the beginning. The head kind of spins, the logo does, and then it goes from a black screen as it slowly becomes less and less what's the word, black, and it softly fades into the screen, into the film. And it's Joe Rogan basically saying something to the effect of like, you were at the, okay, when you were at the White House and you did this, and it was literally JD Vance going like, yeah, we did. And it did catch me off guard. I was like, that was really kind of out there. That didn't fit. It's not like they were saying nothing, but at the same time, it was not anything meaningful or definitely nothing to poke fun of. However, I would take it one step further because the real reason why the clip we're going to play is really good is because beyond just poking fun of JD Vance and this caricature he is trying to be, this very clear, JD Vance is trying to be a politician or one of the best of politicians in an era where nobody wants politicians. And that strategy aside, there is this overt fakeness that kind of exudes from JD Vance. And many people probably wouldn't even catch on to this were it not for the direct opposition of Nick and a few others towards him. But he takes it one step further. And the final step he takes is Nick paints the picture, he illustrates in a very visual way, in a very dynamic way, I would even add, of why there really is no moderate position on the idea of Israel. Highlighting in reference to some of the quips that JD Vance had actually said, but the specific nature to this is pointing at the reality, which is, and much like I pointed out on the show on Offensively Accurate literally the same day, just a couple hours prior, looking at Alex Brusewitz and Ben Shapiro attacking JD Vance. It is this concept which is, like with Alex Brusewitz specifically, this is a guy who has supported Donald Trump since like around 2015. He's been around and been in the sphere since he was basically like 18, 19 years old. Supported Donald Trump, marching with him lockstep all the way, supporting events. He works for the Never Surrender PAC now as one of their senior analysts, if not the outright number one guy who works there. He goes on Tucker Carlson even, and he's on Tucker Carlson. Again, this is still Alex Brusewitz. Alex Brusewitz on Tucker Carlson confronting Tucker on some of these positions. And what were these positions? Well, it was talking about how he thinks that Laura Loomer is smeared unfairly. Talking about how when people just throw the Jews under the bus, it's a lazy thing. So he's literally going to bat for Trump, for Israel, defending against some of these claims that have been coming his way. And because he still thinks that somebody like a Brad Parscale who runs Clock Tower X, and he still thinks he's somebody who thinks that there should be less foreign involvement, there should be less foreign interference, they're still trying to crucify him. Randy Fine coming out, forgive me. You have, well, firstly it was Randy Fine, and now we're in this weird position, and it was picked up by even TMZ DC, where you have somebody like Randy Fine, obviously a pro-Israel loving, whatever you want to call him. The report comes out that Randy Fine, because Alex Brusewitz is not deep-throating the entire nation state of Israel and everything they want to do in America, well, that's not good enough for Randy Fine. Hell, that's not good enough for any of them. So the response was from Randy Fine. Randy Fine, and this is the report that we got. Now he kind of halfway denied it, but the response from Randy Fine was that well now he's going to strong arm Donald Trump, and he's like, you know what, I'm not going to vote for anything Trump wants until Alex Bruesewitz is fired. Mark Levin jumps in. Mark Levin, who again was not supportive of Donald Trump, in the early period, even leading into this campaign, he comes out and he agrees. He amplifies the message from Randy Fine. What does Mark Levin say? Well, Mark Levin says we should get this low-life thug out of here. He's going to ruin it for the midterms. And they're saying that about Alex Bruesewitz, who's been backing Donald Trump since 2015, the entire time, as an influencer, as a social media coordinator, as all of it, all of those years, nothing. All of it thrown away and crushed because of what? Because, well, he thinks, as much as he wants to defend Israel, he thinks that there shouldn't be as much foreign influence. And thusly, it helps illustrate and connect and coordinate this idea, this concept that Nick brought up with JD in reference to his appearance on Rogan, which is you can either support them 100% of the way, all the way, entirely, completely religiously, or you're an anti-Semite. Thus, releasing and showing on a bright scale, it was almost like a Mona Lisa painting. This is why you can't have a moderate position on Israel. So that's some of this stuff. It looks like we did get Mello in here. Let me go ahead and add him real quick inside of here. We bring him up on the thing. And again, it's not Mello's fault. It was my fault for not communicating the correct time. Or forgetting, rather, that he is not on the same time zone as me. We're bringing you in. Yes, I can hear you. I want to make sure that your audio is coming through.
Specificity, but I was just like doing research in preparation, and then
you're fine, man. You're totally
sorry
good
about that.
You're totally good. I'm just going to switch this one window capture over real quick to get the right one. Should be this one. I'm going to pull off this one, switch over here. Okay. All right. Now talk again for me.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect.
Cool.
Perfect. All right. We got you in here. Okay. So as I went ahead, I kind of gave a bit of an intro here of some of the stuff we are going to be talking about. I didn't get to any of the stuff that you added though. But man, who are you, sir? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm just I guess a streamer like Groyper. Been following AF for I guess like about 5 years now, which makes me an old head, which is weird to say. But yeah, I just I'm particularly passionate about this stuff, and so I guess about me professionally, I've got a background in mechanical engineering, STEM. Yeah. So
yeah, you're an engineer. Forget about that. Yeah, very smart.
Just another take seller on the internet, though.
Yeah. I've been seeing more people use that since I did my collab with Basil. I've been seeing more people just kind of give that take. It is a good take, though.
It's just such a good way to put it,
Yeah.
But yeah,
selling your opinion on the internet in many different ways.
So let's get caught up to speed here. What am I walking in on? What are we reacting to at this moment?
Yeah, so I didn't have anything on screen yet. What I did to go through was just some of the themes here of what I thought was like the best of the week. And so I have that in the themes there, number 1 through 5. I think one of the first things I was going to walk into, one of the first clips I wanted to play was going to the left being more America first than the right wing. That's going to want to be the first clips we'll go ahead and grab up here. We didn't do any tech room issues, so I'm really hoping you're going to hear what it does end up getting played on here.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and actually find the right clip, actually, specifically. But again, really just kind of walking through step by step all this stuff through the week. I talked about the Lindsey Graham element, the coincidence obviously involved in his killing that's seemingly fallen out of the news cycle already. Talked about the positioning on the left versus right. Talked about JD Vance's weak position on Israel, his non-existent, fake, curated, moderate position on Israel. And what was the other one? Oh, the Confederacy take. Well, I wanted to make sure you were here before we did the Confederacy one, because that was probably one of the best ones of the week. So let me go ahead and swing this over. This is going to be Nick's take, the clip on why the left is more America first than the right. Go ahead and put it on screen for you guys here.
And their focus on housing and healthcare, that's an indirect way that they are America first. Republicans' education policy is eradicate anti-Semitism and criticism of Israel. Democrats' education policy is subsidize education for Americans. Republicans' healthcare policy is that anti-Semitism is a public health crisis. Democrats' healthcare policy is make healthcare more affordable. Okay, think about it. Democrats are winning elections in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey, and they're running on affordability. They're running on the impact of data centers. They're running on affordability of housing and healthcare. They're running against the wars and in favor of subsidizing our own population, making sure that we're stakeholders in the AI economy boom and that all the wealth doesn't go up to the firm owners that actually control these industries. Meanwhile, the Republicans are shoveling money to Israel, shoveling money to Israel-aligned oligarchs. They're prosecuting a regime change in American institutions to make sure that pro-Israel Jews retain control over them. Now, once again, let's not overstate things. Here's the other issue. The Democrats are not even America first. Why are they doing this against Israel? They're doing all these things fundamentally because they oppose Israel's treatment of Gaza. And I oppose Israel's treatment of Gaza, but that's not even really the biggest problem. Fundamentally, the biggest problem is that a foreign country is controlling our nation and our affairs. The Democrats have said, look, we want to keep giving Israel humanitarian aid, and we might even want to give them security assistance, but they just have to not attack Gaza. Well, I don't even really want to give them security assistance. And if we do, I don't even just want it to be contingent on that. I'd want it to be contingent on other things too. So Democrats are even coming at it from a different place. They in a way, they want to stop giving money to Israel so that we can give it to illegal immigrants, so we can give it to, these huge amounts of people in our country that don't work, to people that are already the beneficiaries of major government programs and in-kind transfers through services. This is where the Republicans have an opportunity, okay? This is why I'm not a Democrat. This is why I'm saying we need to vote for Democrats to make a point. In the same way that Democrats are voting to strip Israel of its foreign aid to make a point, we need to vote for Democrats to make a point. Here's the larger picture. The real opportunity, it's not with the Democrats, because what are the Democrats going to do? They're going to continue to support Israel, no doubt about it. And they're going to put America last in other ways. Open borders, pathway to citizenship, taxing white people to give money to foreigners. They're going to reopen USAID and they're going to give all the foreign aid to Africa instead of Israel, okay? Let's not go crazy here. When I say that Israel's more America, or rather Democrats are more America first than Republicans, I mean that to make a point, which is Republicans bill themselves as America first, and they're, compared to the Democrats, they're not. Here's the opportunity. Republicans have a real opportunity in 28 or in 32 to rebrand and seize the initiative on this issue. Democrats will eat our lunch unless Republicans meet them where they are. What do I mean by this? If Democrats' message is, let's take the money that we're giving to Israel and give it to illegal immigrants, let's take the money that we're giving to Israel and fighting the wars, and let's make healthcare free, and let's make everything free for all these people that don't work, and let's open the borders and have queer liberation. What are the Democrats doing? They're isolating the Republicans with the one issue we can't give up. They're saying, look, we may control the borders and we're going to reduce prices. And unlike the Republicans, we don't have the Israel issue. They're unwilling to give it up. We're going to seize the initiative on economic populism. We're going to seize the initiative on other issues. Republicans have an opportunity to outflank the left in exactly the same way. The Republicans need to learn how to play politics and say, look, unlike the left, we're going to give you free stuff too. We're also going to kick the illegals out. We're going to close the border. We're going to kick the illegals out. We're going to put America first. And we're going to give all the freebies as well. Yeah, we're going to take care of everybody. We'll have Medicare for all too. We'll have Medicare and Medicaid for all too. Who gives a shit? We're not going to touch Social Security. We're not going to touch Medicare. We're going to make housing more affordable. We'll do all the things the Democrats are doing. We're going to end the foreign wars too. We're tired of the foreign wars. We're going to defund Israel, and we're going to have a strong border. And unlike the Democrats, we're not going to have trannies, and we're not going to have open borders. We're going to do the things that they won't do, which is we're going to stop the worst excesses of wokeism that are still there, and we're going to close the damn border. That's something Democrats will never do. We'll give you everything we're giving and the things they're not willing to give. That's the winning Republican message. And you know what that's called? It's called America First.
So that to me was, again, a great illustration of just how it sits, obviously, right now in the context of the message that the left is giving out. Even as much as you might disagree with like the economic principles of like giving free money out, or the way they want to hand out money to people who are continually on welfare program after welfare program after welfare program, but also in the context of looking ahead to 2028, to me, I think that the 2028 election is going to have a huge element of economic value placed upon it. I think the window of what will be the top issues for people will be the economy. I think mass deportations and the border is going to fall away a little bit. Immigration will still obviously be a top thing, but with many people already kind of living off the back of what didn't happen in 24, I think a lot of people, especially if the consequences of the Iran war continue to expound and get worse, we're going to be looking at someone who on the left is probably going to be pushing something like a, freebies in some way, Medicare, just ways that will obviously appeal to the economic domestic issues America's facing with. And if the right wing can't match that, like you said, and meet them where they are, I think it kind of just spells certain doom in 2028. But some of your thoughts, Mello?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's not even just that, like, it's not just that, like, the Republicans are getting outflanked on this issue, which they are, but it's like they have no answer. They have nothing. It's like, what was Trump saying? What was this administration saying months ago? It's like, oh, the economy is doing great. Look at the stock market. It's like, well, you understand that, like, most Americans don't exactly have their net worth tied up in stocks. That you're talking about, like, ultimately a small subset of the population. And when you're talking to voters, it's like, there's a clear dissonance. People are being told that the economy is great. What are you talking about? Look, record stock market, record gains in the S&P 500.
The Dow.
The Dow. And it's like just kind of textbook gaslighting when people look at their monthly expenditures, they're looking at their income, and they're getting absolutely hosed. So it's just like the mere fact that the left is willing to even address these issues, never mind the fact that their solutions are like totally screwed up and awful. I mean, I think Mamdani is a good example of that. We can get into that in a minute too.
Yeah.
So their solutions are kind of demonstrably bad. It's just the mere fact that they're addressing these issues to begin with. And so Americans that are kind of in the middle, that maybe are somewhat credulous or don't know anything about economics or don't know any better, they feel heard. They feel seen by the left, and the right is just like kind of dismissing people's concerns. And people say, like, rent is too high, cost of living is too high. And when Republicans respond by saying, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, the economy's never been better. It's like, there's clearly, like, that just doesn't play well when you tell a potential voter that, no, you're actually wrong and your concerns aren't real. Like, that's, it's totally tone deaf. And yeah, I think they are going to get absolutely annihilated. And regarding the Israel issue, and I don't know if you've already talked about this, but you already see the play for 28. You already see the moves that JD is making, trying to appease both parties, trying to come off as Israel critic for the Americans that have their criticisms and their concerns regarding Israel, but also trying to appeal to the donor class. And so I think actually that one edit that Nick retweeted.
Is it on the outline?
Yeah, I put it in the outline. JD is talking to Rogan. He's trying to play that he's trying to thread that needle I think that is a like textbook example of like effective propaganda on how we refute these talking points, this rhetoric. It is like, it is just so, it is like perfect. It is like the perfect edit because it gives you the rhetoric and then it gives you the immediate response for why it's duplicitous, for why
I did see that
it
edit,
is.
didn't I?
It's
the bottom one here.
let me see here. Yes, the bottom one. Yes.
I'll get it ready over here.
Okay. Nick retweeted it. It was this guy's like first edit, and I think it's awesome.
Oh yes, I did. I did see that because he was like, "Is this tough?" It's my first time making an edit.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, perfect. You're perfectly correct. And I guess one of the responses I would have inside of that would be to add on top of what you're saying there with the rhetoric from the Republicans. Well, you have like multiple layers inside of that. The first layer at the top is the fact that Trump has already backpedaled on some of this, like with the housing, for example. One of the quotes that kind of floated around was, and I forget what presser it was, and maybe it was like a week or 2 weeks ago, where Trump says something to the effect of, how's pricing going down? He's like, I want it to go up, and then talks about people like wanting to retain their values, and it's like, so who's in your ear then? If if people are telling you your concern is people retaining their home value, it's like, well, it's definitely not the people who don't have homes who are trying to enter into the housing market, obviously. And the second thing to add on to what you were saying as well is when you have the rest of Republicans kind of marching in lockstep about the economy, being well or like not caring about it. Well, two things. One is a lot of the economic turbulation we're feeling is coming directly from our actions in the Iran war and speculation built on top of that. And so if they even pivot slightly to accepting that the economy is suffering from anything, it gives credence to the argument against some of the Iran war and what's blowing back. And third, the overall economic issue is also, even outside of the Iran war, it would be a reflection on the overall status of the administration. And so it's like, in no way can they respond because either their response will be seen as an attack on Trump, an attack on the administration, or attack on the actions in the Iran war. And so once again, you see them all walking in lockstep together.
And one more element I'll add on to that real quick is, yes, this administration wants to defend the Iran war, but we're also in this like bitter, not so much anymore, but we were in this very contentious, these contentious discussions with Iran, and it was an attempt to save face. Like our economy is hurting, and Trump can't let Iran know that our economy is hurting as a result of this war. So it's to say, nah, the housing prices, what are you talking about? It's a good thing if it goes up. Like cost of living, not an issue. What do you mean? And so like that's just, and that comes with the territory of negotiating. And again, obviously, like we shouldn't have been in this situation to begin with, but somebody should have told him like that rhetoric. You understand why he's saying it, but there are real costs domestically. Like that does not play well. That is very bad optics. You know what he's doing. He's trying to posture to save face amidst these negotiations. But the voters are seeing this. Americans are seeing this, and they're like, "What the hell, man? Like, it just doesn't play well." So,
yeah, and one thing I would even add beyond there too is to kind of give a cherry on the top of all of this is the reality that we are 6, maybe 5.5, 6 years removed from COVID. I wouldn't even say that far because obviously the after effects lasted for a bit, and people are right back to just believing basically everything that's in the news, even about all the Iran war stuff. And it's kind of sad because it does show you like, no matter how extreme some things may be, it's like there are certain human nature qualities that just cannot be overridden, like despite how bad things are. And I think that goes to just speak about why history repeats itself in general.
It's so true,
especially with so much of the Iran war being, smoke and mirrors.
And that just goes to show like that is like human nature. People tend to gravitate towards like the consensus or their team, their party. People are not really, and this sounds, I don't know, kind of maybe pretentious, but like most people are not really capable of critical thinking because they're like really unaware of all of these things that are influencing them. Yep. They don't even know what they believe. They don't even understand their own ideological priors. It's like I'm seeing like a lot of, here's a good example. I'm seeing how the war in Ukraine is shifting. Like Ukraine, they're making deeper and deeper attacks in Russian territory. And now just this morning or last night, two large logistical warehouses got hit in Russia. This is we're talking like potentially hundreds of millions of dollars and maybe billions more in lost future revenue and a major hit to their infrastructure. They've been hitting oil refineries as well, and I'm seeing like a lot of these like pro-Russia people just like say, oh, who cares? They took out a couple of warehouses in the middle of nowhere. It's like, dude, do you listen to yourself right now? People are just NPCs. That is like the final red pill. They just took one ship out and put another one in. It's like, oh, these Ukraine shills, they're NPCs, and they just like took that ship out. And I see people like a good example is like the Duran. It's a geopolitical talk show. Yeah. And like they've been covering the war in Ukraine for a while now. And it's like, I'm seeing people that I know, like that follow that show regularly. And they're talking about, Russia's kicking ass. And you look at the people on this show and it's like, dude, all of these people were associated with Sputnik. They're all associated with RT, like it's literal Russian state propaganda. And it's like, and I'm not like Russia. I'm not really like a Russia hawk in that sense, but it's like, I am America first. I don't want foreign interference really influencing our decisions in America, whether it's Ukraine, Israel, China, Russia, America first. And so you just need, step one is being aware of how people are trying to influence you. It's InfoWars. It's a war for your mind. It's so true.
Yeah. Well,
and so
people just don't have any real appreciation of the fourth and fifth generational warfare. I always forget which one we were technically on. I know that ropes into like psyops as well.
Yeah, I think it's fifth generational warfare.
And but these people are just so it's difficult to even get around. But you also go to like the inner monologue thing.
Isn't yours?
Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Joshua Vandenord. Thank you greatly.
On 83.91 cent, $4.99 on YouTube. Atlas claims to be America first. Gives my job to an Asian. Much love, Mellow.
No, that's great. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's funny. Oh yeah, you can hear these, can't you?
I can, yeah.
That's right. I forgot. With Vito, it actually helps transfer the audio.
Yeah.
Which is funny. But no, I mean, more to your point, I think that is funny. Thank you very much for the super chat, Josh. We appreciate it greatly. And we'll see you back next week, hopefully, unless you lie to me again. Anyways, the the one thing I would even on top of that. That's one thing I've thought about pretty specifically, like in the critical thought aspect, maybe even removed from politics, but just like the human psychology element. Mm-hmm. And it is like, I mean, even if we're not talking about just politics, there is part of me that like I catch myself often going like, is it somehow getting worse? Maybe this is a byproduct of like the population's growing. Like maybe they were onto something with like the guidestones. Like maybe human consciousness is only given to 500,000 people at a time, like on planet Earth, and everyone else is like
feels like that, yeah.
Just like robotic. And it's exactly what you're saying there too. It's even inside of like what you're talking about with the warehouse too. It's the same with like these energy fields. Like when they talk about the losses of them in and of themselves, it's like, well, yeah, like they lost the airfield, but like now, how long is it going to take them to remake the oil field?
Mm-hmm.
And let alone they get the oil field back, how long is it going to take for the fields to mature and saturate and the oil to get to where and all that's just like it's removed from thought processes. And maybe there's an element of this that in the main news there's just like first come first serve, where the first person who just puts the story out gets the bulk of it. So maybe there's an element of that they don't really care about going deep on the stories because they just want to make the money off of the fact that they were the first one. Now they're getting shared on X. Now they're getting quote tweeted by Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz has some thoughts about it too. So I think there's kind of a hand in hand in both of it as well. But the Russia thing's just kind of sad as well overall. I mean, it's like, what is it? The average lifespan of the newly drafted soldiers is like 20 minutes, something to that effect.
Yeah. It's a meat grinder for sure. It's that war it's pretty terrifying. Just seeing how it's it went from like a lot of mechanized units initially, and then it quickly turned into trench warfare with rolling artillery, and now it's like drone warfare. There is like no front line, and
you don't seem to understand. Earth isn't.
Thank you, Mitch.
Conquer. Mitch sent $3 watching this while playing Pal World.
W Pal World.
Good. Is that game good?
Yeah, I played it for like 6 hours on stream earlier today. It's,
Oh,
it's
nice,
really fun.
nice.
Yeah.
It's fun
1.0
trying to
released
get
on
into
like the
play it.
10th of this month. So it finally
Mm.
got out of early access. But when it came out, it was actually like an update too. Like they added a bunch on release as well.
Ah,
It's good. If you like Pokemon, you'll love Power World a little bit more.
okay, okay.
Yeah, not to cut
Yeah.
you off. Did you finish your thought?
Oh yeah, I mean it's just yeah, that war it is fascinating to see how warfare is changing before our eyes, and it is drone warfare. And you know, even today, you know, there were more strikes on American bases, and it's I think this has been a blind spot for our military. Like we should have been developing this drone technology, and we're kind of behind the ball now. And it just goes to show, like we have all of this cool tech, you know, these planes, advanced, you know, aircraft carriers, all of this, you know, very sophisticated weapons, anti-missile technology, and yet like we're getting bodied by like, you know, $30,000 Shahed drones. You know, it's like the economy element of the war. You know, it's the drone element is making warfare. And that's really how Ukraine has had this big comeback, is because now they're able to have this sort of outsized impact by relying on drones. Now that industry has matured, even though they are, in terms of manpower and hard power, they are an inferior country to Russia. They've been able to turn the table with this new technology, this new drone industry that they've developed.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
I would also say it's also not surprising in the slightest that the
Mhm.
moment that it seems that the U.S. and Iran war starts kicking off, you know, we kind of get a couple months into it where, you know, everyone, all the outsiders looking in have had time to pay attention to some of the tactics, the strategies. That's one thing I think always gets missed in the geopolitical debate is obviously they talk about the countries involved, but they always omit all the countries that have something to gain who aren't directly involved, such as Russia and China looking at American strategy, and then obviously American US allies looking at what Iran is doing and all the movements that are in there. So it also doesn't strike me as any surprise at all that basically, like, since the war has started with Iran, was like, I would like to know when the tides are shifting. I know obviously Russia is gaining ground for a certain point, but it does seem to almost be matching up where Iran begins to back down the US with this drone warfare. Ukraine is like now punching harder and harder and harder back towards Russia. I was also curious. I'm wondering if they're also picking up some inner strategies inside of watching what Iran is doing, and then also trying to adapt to those and use them themselves. Obviously, it's been happening for, you know, for a few years now with this drone warfare, obviously being plastered on X.com, watching, you know, drones fly into, you know, IFVs filled with like 18 guys and taking them all out in one
Yeah,
blow.
yeah.
It's rough stuff to watch. But no, back to the edit you wanted to bring up. I have this pulled up here, and this is like Nick's response to, and you were right. It's a perfect response to the rhetoric that came out of JD Vance on the topic of Israel, and again, this kind of fake, generated, curated position that just doesn't make any sense. So here's the edit.
I'm actually in this, you know, there's this massive pro-Israel, anti-Israel debate in the United States of America. I'm like the reasonable moderate.
You're a reasonable moderate on that? Does that even make any sense? Do you believe that? If JD Vance believes that Israel is paying Americans to buy off influencers to sabotage diplomacy, then what is the necessary conclusion? It means Israel wants Americans to die in their war. Israel wants us to spend trillions of dollars on their war. What happens if peace fails? What happens if diplomacy fails? What happens if the deal collapses? It means Americans will die. It means we are trapped. We are stuck. It means inflation goes up, gas prices stay high. It means we may be involved in a ground war in Iran. That's not a joke. That is serious.
So a great edit. I think it like very clearly, obviously, illustrates the kind of back and forth, the broader position that Nick has on this, coming from like what's driving him to be so against this. And we're going to get into the clip too, to where he goes a little bit further as well, illustrating what this problem is. But the one thing I would even add on top of where that clip is at is when you see the response of everybody else outside of Nick. I think Nick obviously has and always seems to always be vindicated every single time, as we're getting used to, especially if you're a new Groyper. One thing I would add is the response from everybody else literally the next day, which was from Ben Shapiro to Levin to all of these other pro-Israel shows. And even before you get the show with Nick, it was like I saw it. Like I even like shifted gears because I was getting ready to talk about I wanted to talk about like data centers and I had a couple other things on my list, but I was like, it's so predictable. I'm like, look at this happening right now. And I was already watching what they were doing to Alex Brusewitz, which I don't know if you've been following that or not, but everybody coming at Alex Brusewitz, knives out against him because
Mm.
how dare he, in the slightest possible way say I don't want foreign influence. Much like what you had just said. You even said earlier, whether it's Russia or Ukraine or India or Israel, it's like I don't want the interference, like America first. And you get that from Brusewitz, though they come for him. JD
Mm.
Vance does the same thing. It's knives out for him too. And JD Vance is very similarly basically pushing the same position that Alex Brusewitz was pushing, which is, America first, this is like the moderate position, he'd probably, JD Vance would probably say the same thing in terms of like, oh, people who say, the Jews are behind everything, like that's lazy, like that's not a good way to have rhetoric about this topic. But they are interfering with their social media campaign. That's it. That's enough. You're an anti-Semite now.
Yeah.
They hear that, and now you're an anti-Semite. But the reason being, and obviously there's more reasons to this, but one of the big mistakes most people make when they're weighing the two options in the Middle East, they're weighing the two sides that are yanking America back and forth between Islam and the Jews in Israel, is the fact that most people can easily and overtly see the fanaticism with how Islam acts. The Allahu Akbar, the Tuscan Raider dances with the AK-47s in the desert, but they fail to apply the same thing to the Jews, even though it's just as visible. Now, the example he used with Joe Lonsdale, I'll go a step further. The example he used from Joe Lonsdale came from the reaction he had to Gabe Einhorn publicizing the information about Austin Franco on Handshake, which was the job application website.
Mm.
And it all came from Austin Franco. And again, albeit, I don't think you should just come out right and say it, but he literally did. He was like, I don't want to work for Jews. Now he didn't say it in a rude way. He didn't say it in a mean way. He just said, quite frankly, my experiences with Jews in the past have kind of, in the aggregate, have all been, pretty poor. So, no, thank you. I don't want to work for you. Well, then this starts Gabe Einhorn coming out and saying, I can't believe someone would say this. But Joe Lonsdale, the response from him, guy who's tied up close to Peter Thiel, comes out and starts screaming, this has to be fake, because if you were actually a real Jew and you really wanted justice for this, you wouldn't have hidden his name and you wouldn't have blacked it out. But it's coming from what Nick illustrates, which is Joe Lonsdale's fanatical belief that we're going to see Auschwitz 2, in our lifetimes. That comes from Joe Lonsdale's belief, because he's fanatical about it, because he has a dogmatic view of everything's a dog whistle. And you can't say one thing about the Jews without Joe Lonsdale. I mean, he probably hearing this conversation right now. This is insane about this. His ears perked up the moment I even mentioned his name. And all of that to say that people fail to attach the same kind of fanaticism to this issue. And even if you didn't want to look at it in the same vein of say they're not Tuscan Raiders, they're not, they're not whipping their dirty carpets around the place. They're still talking about it every single day. You look at Laura Loomer, you look at Mark Levin, you can look at these people, and even if it's not in the same exact type of fanaticism, they're still clearly fanatic. And the question should also be to the average American is do you not sit and wonder why you hear about this issue every single day since you've basically been alive? I mean, most people are, under the age of 30. What stems from that fanaticism, which their fanaticism is in the defense. And I think maybe that's why people fail to see it too. Obviously, they're better and smarter in strategy at it too. But the Islamic fanaticism is seemingly always more offensive. It's always more we're coming for you. We're much like how Sneeko provoked in New York. It's New Yorkistan. We're jihad of New York. It's an offensive provocation. We're claiming it now. Where the Jews are always in the defense of. They're always looking over their shoulder that guy might be a Jew hater, but we don't know yet. We have to really verify. We have to run the wallet check on him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's just
no,
insane.
a
Go
couple
ahead.
things. I just want to say on that, it's left wing, right wing Jews. The one thing you have to understand is that they're like paranoid. They're histrionics, meaning they're emotional, and they're paranoid. There is this belief that, and they're inundated with this, starting from a young age, that the world is like out to get them, and they are constantly told about all of these things, these bad things that have happened to them as Jews, going back thousands of years. And I was talking to one of my dad's friends from college who's Jewish and somebody that I respect, really great guy. And, he like really like rags to riches kind of story in America. But, he's talking about his experience and his like, there's like this paranoia. And the way he described it was, you may forget that, he said that his dad told him, you may forget that you're different, but at some point you will be reminded. It will remind you that you're different. And that is like this belief, this sort of like resentment or distrust, this friction at the very least that is very pervasive. It's sort of omnipresent among these various Jewish communities. And it breeds resentment and distrust. And so it's very difficult to build a high trust society when certain people don't trust you for no other reason than they're different from you. You're different from them. They're different from you. And I think a lot of that is human nature. But when you have this like tight knit community where they constantly remind themselves that they're different, and they remind themselves of how those differences sometimes, they'll say manifest in hostilities towards their people. And, he did the whole like, well, they don't like us because, we're successful. And I think that's like a cope. I think that's what they often tell themselves. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of very successful Jews out there, but, there needs to be a level of accountability and honesty. But, when they feel so threatened all the time, you see the logic. Then they feel like they have to preemptively strike. They have to take action to prevent another Holocaust, another pogrom, whatever. And I think that is, in order to make this like experiment in America work, in order to make the amount of diversity in America work, we need to be honest. We need to hold ourselves accountable and each other accountable. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we see that there's clearly a double standard in that regard. But regarding like the Muslim thing, and this is not a defense of Muslims at all, but why is it flaring up right now? Well, one, I think in a certain sense, these Muslims really can't help themselves. I think people like Sneeko, Muhammad Hijab, just these really odious, like Mehdi Hassan, just like total scumbags. They can't help themselves. And that's kind of really how they've always been. But I do think that right now, let's not forget we are engaged in another war in the Middle East, and it's politically expedient if people are less, if they're more hostile to Muslims, because there's a shared enemy there with us and Israel.
Yeah.
And so I do think that that's somewhat being instrumentalized. And I have this thing, if I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on, like I'm seeing like Elon Musk, and he like reposts that Citizen Vigilante movie. And Nigel Farage says that he was approached. I don't know if you saw this, but that he was approached by Elon that wanted to like, hand him a lot of money for his party and his party's political ambitions in the UK. And, obviously he put out the Pakistani rape gang report, which, was good work. But then at this, oh, so sorry, it was Rupert Lowe. Sorry. Who did I say again? I might have confused those two, but regardless, the point I wanted to make is you listen to Rupert Lowe, sorry. And like he goes out and he says that like he has no real problem with multiculturalism, with diversity.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wait, so you put out this report that I think is like, it's good work, and it demonstrates the problem of diversity. So the point I wanted to make, him and Nigel Farage, what's really the difference between the two of them? If these conclusions are not really different from one another.
Yep.
And so I really wonder, like, what is the point of all of this? What is the point of this baseploitation stuff? And then again, just today, I'm looking at it got reported that Elon is backing Vivek Ramaswamy's campaign in Ohio. And make no mistake, like, Elon's been very vocal about his opinion on H-1Bs and visas in general. This kind of segues into one of the other topical things going on right now regarding the AI race with China, which is heating up.
Yeah.
I think he sees this as a necessary venture to combat China, because Elon is getting his lunch eaten by China right now. Like, BYD is like just owning Tesla in terms of their batteries, in terms of their cost per vehicle. And if BYD were able to sell their vehicles in America, they would like destroy Tesla. That like the American automobile manufacturing would get like deleted overnight if we didn't have these very hefty tariffs. And so I think that's that's how he views it, and why,
What's been a problem for a while. I mean, the American automobile industry for a long time has been like a major kind of lagging thing. Even though we were once one of the leaders, it's like we have subsidy after subsidy after bailout has continued to kind of push it down the field, if you will. One thing I want to ask you real quick on that: what would be your first response to people, though? Because this is always a first response. If you talk about China, especially economically, in any kind of positive light, what would you say to the response if somebody said, "Well, no, everybody knows China fakes all their economy, their economic stats. Everybody knows that it's all, it's just made up and generated." What would be your response to that?
Well, I would cede a little bit of ground, because I think there's probably some truth to that. I mean, we fudge our numbers too, make no mistake. But I would just say, well, the proof is kind of in the pudding. Like, you look at the new model they just put out on Thursday, Kimi version 3, which according to certain benchmarks are clearing Western models like Fable 5, the coveted Anthropic's Fable 5. And this indicates that China has caught up in the AI race. And that's a product that you can use today, right now, and you can verify that claim for yourself. And immediately, you are seeing the response from both OpenAI and Anthropic. There's almost like this reflexive answer. Like, Anthropic now, they're like trying to push Fable 5 out the door, because they know that like China's right around the corner. And one of the things I was researching right before this show is, well, what exactly is giving China this advantage in this regard? How exactly is their AI now competitive with Western models? And number one, I would say, is they don't have the same regulations or restrictions that the West does. This is kind of an open secret. They just like steal intellectual IP like it's nothing. And one user reported that, Kimi does not have the same stopgaps that like Anthropic or OpenAI have. You try to like generate certain images or like plagiarize certain things on these Western platforms, you'll get stopped. They'll prevent you from doing such. But Kimi doesn't have that problem. And it's the same thing with how like BYD was able to become so successful. Tesla did all of the R&D on their automobiles, and then BYD just copied it. And largely because we have allowed that to happen. We bring in foreign nationals into the country. They go to our universities, they work at these top tech firms, and then they just bounce back to China with all of these trade secrets. And then surprise, surprise, it's like this revolutionary idea. A specific example in Tesla cars is they put the battery pack in the bed of the vehicle. And what that does is that gives the car rigidity. It gives it structural strength, but it also lowers the center of mass much closer to the ground, making it a safer, more stable car. Like, you think about how much work went into that, and China just, they get the blueprints, they rip it off like it's nothing. And then they didn't spend all of that time and money developing that. And similar things are happening in AI. You always hear these examples of like, people like Chinese nationals. I think this one Grok employee went to OpenAI and brought like all of Grok's source code with him. And so this is happening on a very large scale. They are siphoning off this intellectual property, the knowledge on our intellectual property via their human capital. Yeah. And that's a big part of how they've been able to gain this competitive advantage in terms of their product. And the Chinese government helps facilitate that. So that's number one. Like, we don't really protect our IPs in that way, but they do. They protect their IPs. They are very, very cognizant of potential foreign investment and theft of their property. Yeah. A non-Chinese national would not be allowed anywhere near the source code of like DeepSeek or Kimi. They know that. They're serious. They are the ones benefiting from it, so they know they're not going to let the same thing happen to them. So that's number one. But number two is the energy costs. It's just cheaper. It's not so much that Kimi is like a better model. It's slower. It uses more tools, more calls when solving the same task. The task is in terms of the output is comparable to Fable 5. Fable 5 and even like GPT's 5.6 are probably overall still better for a number of productivity tasks. But the kicker is that like Kimi is doing it at a fraction of the cost. I think like half or like a third. And a lot of that is because, well, China has much lower costs of energy. And I was doing some research on that. And let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. And it's something like, according to my preliminary findings, it's like for industrial scale manufacturing, where it is like 40% cheaper. I'm looking at like in the United States, it's about 9 cents per kilowatt hour versus China's 6 cents per kilowatt hour. Dang. This is a lot of technical stuff. Right. Like, bear with me. I'm going somewhere with this. But you also have to understand how China and America differ. China, their overall electrical output is like more than double ours, right? Because they have all of this manufacturing, they have a huge population, but it's also distributed differently. And it's also heavily subsidized. And so like their residential electricity costs are very cheap. Here in America, our consumer energy costs are more than double theirs. And that makes sense. We like our computers, we like our electronics. And so now, in order to compete with China, you need to think about, you can't just build a bunch of energy power plants overnight. And so what is that going to do? Now you're competing with like residential neighborhoods. Like that energy needs to go somewhere. And so costs go up, and costs have been going up. I mean, you look at California, they're like instructing people to like, turn off their AC in the middle of the summer because they can't. I have a friend who talks about how much it sucks right now. I can imagine. Because he's sitting there sweating his balls off in the middle of LA, the LA heat, and because the AC is not working and it's so expensive to run. And so like now on top of that, we want to build all of these data centers. It's like, this is the big fear that the Western AI companies are beginning to face. It's like, maybe we have the better models for now, but they can't get the costs under certain thresholds to be competitive. And that's one of the reasons why, like that's one of the factors driving like the push for more foreign labor, because they want to cut the costs. And so they want cheaper engineers. But that's, as we've seen demonstrated with the profit fall off of like Microsoft, the functionality drop off of Microsoft and Windows, and like IBM losing like 28% of their stock value this last quarter. And like they've been outsourcing to India like crazy. They are killing their competitive advantage, which is the human capital that's actually building these things to begin with. That's how we've been able to build these things to be competitive, to be on the cutting edges, because Americans built it, because Americans are the geniuses. We are the pioneers. We built this stuff. China copies it. They do it for cheaper, but they're smart because they protect their national interests. They align their national interests with these private interests, and we're not doing that. And so I think that our AI industries are in for a very rude awakening. And so I saw Anthropic immediately, the day after Kimi version 3 was announced, they said that you can get Fable 5 included in their max $100 a month package, but they'll also include $100 token for the pro version, so the $20 a month. And I'm sitting here, I'm grinding out Fable 5. It's wonderful in many ways, but that is like a panic move. And side note, look,
they're trying to get like more money, like in a short period of time. Like they're already reacting and panicking.
They need market share. They need people to adopt this technology. And OpenAI, one of their let me see if I put it. Yeah, their head of strategic futures predicts like a clampdown. Like today, he came out and he said he predicts a clampdown on Chinese AI, probably in the same way we've seen a clampdown on Chinese automobile manufacturing, because in terms of cost, they can't compete. American companies cannot compete. And OpenAI, if you didn't know already, is not a profitable company, and they don't really have a solution. Sam Altman, like a year and a half ago or so, was asked like how he's going to take a company that has like I forget the exact number, but he said that he has plans to take the company from like a revenue stream of like, it was like 15 or $25 billion to like 200 and something billion dollars over 6 years. Somebody asked him, hey, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that exactly? And he gave this very standoffish, hostile response by saying, well, if you're not confident in OpenAI, I'm sure there are some people who are very interested in buying your OpenAI stock, because the interviewer happened to have some stock in OpenAI. And
that's wild.
I don't like that flew under the radar. I saw that, and it's like alarm bells are going off. Wait a second. This guy doesn't have a plan. He can't articulate his plan for how he's going to scale up his product tenfold.
It's rhetoric to keep getting investment from.
It is
from the people who have already invested.
It's hype. It's hype. It's like the same thing with like Fable 5, which I love. It's fantastic. The head of Anthropic was saying like, we're scared of this. We're really this might be too much. This model might actually be like, Terminator level AI, and that's like hype. And this
Claude Fable 5 just came out like a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it already got leapfrogged.
Yeah, it already got leapfrogged, and it's going like, we're going tit for tat. It's this like desperate rat race to stay on top. And again, at the end of the day, there are very real energy costs associated with it. And if you can't put out a product, like what do people really care about? It's like, the cost per like compute, like the cost per the final product that you get from the AI. As long as the output is like comparable, it's the cost that's really going to be the deciding factor. Can you essentially do the same thing for cheaper? And right now it looks like China, the answer is yes, they can do it for cheaper. And DeepSeek just announced they've got their new model right around the corner. And so there are real fears right now that like the center of the AI industry, of the global AI industry, is going to quickly pivot away from America into China. And then what happens to our economy? What happens to our economy? Yeah. Especially if the rest of the world adopts Chinese models instead of American models, because we cannot compete at the same price point.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things I guess I immediately think of, like just in this discussion alone, is thinking of the energy company structure of America versus the energy company structure of what exists in China. Now, I'm not familiar with the energy company structure in China, but I could imagine it's probably a lot more aligned and consolidated than what we have here in the States. And here in the States, you have kind of like 2-3 different main ways you can kind of have an energy company. You have like something like Pioneer or, AEP, like American Electric, or you have all these different co-ops that kind of get to dictate like the way that they want their energy structure to operate, how far they go, who's involved. Like, is it just inside the county? Do we go beyond the county lines? So I'm curious if there's probably, like, because of the free market element, that there's this kind of just natural. I mean, obviously the government would be not in the position like in the United States where if they wanted to come to these companies and say, hey, we need to get you guys on the same page because we're in this AI race, we'd like to incentivize you in order to, shift your energy directives towards what would help benefit these data centers, what would help benefit these companies. Where China, they probably just come in and they say, hey, that's what we're doing. And they just, just switches over. So there's kind of like layers to what is also making this even beyond the cost. And you mean, look how many American companies are on that list versus like Chinese. And it's also like we
And-
have a lot more different companies, but if their top two are out competing us, it's like, what's it even matter that we have this bunch of different choices if they're all worse?
Exactly, and they can pivot a lot easier because again, like they have this massive industrial manufacturing base. Like their energy system, their grid is really built for that because so much more of their energy consumption is already industrial, and so it's a lot easier to take like excuse me, like a factory that makes like a bunch of widgets or something. You already have the electrical work essentially there versus like now you're going to redirect power in like a residential area. You have to lay a bunch of infrastructure and cable to power this new AI data center in the middle of like freaking Ohio versus like kind of a much easier pivot. And that's a big part of the problem is again like how we consume electricity versus how China consumes electricity, and because so much more of it is consumer, it's residential, it's us and our computers and our TVs and electronics and whatnot versus China, where a lot of it is already going to these industries. And so you're seeing all this friction. Like in America, a lot of people don't want these data centers because they do fear that like it's going to increase their electricity bill. And look, in that sense, like I would be okay if that gets subsidized, if the government subsidizes electricity, insofar as these news industries are hiring Americans and are giving us a competitive advantage. Like that's America first, but when they just hire a bunch of H-1Bs to take these jobs and on top of that, you're not even getting a subsidy for your electricity bill goes up. You're not even getting a subsidy for it. And you're getting boxed out of the economy. There's There's nothing America first about that.
Right. And with like the H-1B visa structure, the worker they get is not only for one, like tied essentially to like a salary contract, basically, where they kind of have a set cost. Well, the second thing is they know that person's going to be on their best behavior because if you don't help the company, you do anything to jeopardize this all, you're gone. Which would be obviously a different experience than if you were to have just a bunch of Americans. So it just is less of a headache overall. For the American companies to just fill all of their employees, their facilities, I should say, with a bunch of H-1B workers too. It's rough. I mean, it's a terrible setup. And I would imagine they're going to probably subsidize it here soon. And I mean, you look at Nvidia too. I mean, like Nvidia, what did they became the biggest company? I mean, they are like the biggest company ever right now in terms of overall value right now, right? Because of their latest. That's when their latest AI, was it their processor? No, it wasn't a processor. What was it that came out? It was like the NVIDIA 200s.
Well, I guess in general, it's the hard to put it simply, the hardware that they're building for AI. That's really what's leading their. I don't know if there's anything specific that's come out that has bumped up their stock, but just in general, the reason why, like at one point they had like a larger market cap than like the entirety of Russia. Which is kind of like, pretty crazy. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of the ways that they offset, a lot of these AI companies offset their operating costs is they just put it on the consumer. And NVIDIA's kind of, they're selling AI computers, like desktop computers you can purchase for a few grand specifically for AI. And so I wouldn't be surprised if some of these companies, they do their best to essentially license out the models, but you use your hardware so they can save on processing power and energy costs. And go ahead.
Well, one thing I was going to say was also, I guess maybe to marry this to another topic, but not to divert or to go off on a tangent, is the fact that I think that when people talk about the AI story, like in its generality, like in the general sense, you have almost like this big faction of people who just I have stuck their nose up at it since it's been even an issue from the beginning. Many people who have already been like skeptics, if you will. Oh, that's just like a temporary thing. That's just like a big wave. It's gonna get shelved eventually. People will get tired of AI, or it's just gonna ultimately kind of maybe in their heads amount to nothing. But on the other side, you have people who are like, no, this is the future. You need to get ahead of it right now. Like, and if you are someone who's in a position like with children or have young people growing up, you should probably be directing them or positioning them towards taking on a career or a job or a venture that goes in line with something like an AI system, because that's the future. So you can have like two different like sides to the coin here.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't mean to like derail the whole stream. I know we wanted to keep
Totally
the focus
fine.
on AF. The reason why I brought this up was I think one of the best clips of this this week was Nick talking about getting on Claude, and he's 100% right. Like seriously, everyone right now, like start using AI in some capacity. Just do it to like automate basic tasks, but you need to learn how to use it. It is such an incredibly powerful tool. And a lot of people don't want to even bother with it. You know, some people say like, oh, it's a fad, or some people even go so far as to say like, it's transhumanist, it's evil. It's like, look, it is power. It is a tool. You either figure out how to use it, you get ahead of it, you utilize it to the best of your abilities to better yourself, to be more productive. If you have an idea, a dream, a goal, it's so much easier to realize it with these AI models. I like seriously, I'm like begging you guys, like get on this now. Start messing around with Claude, with GPT, with Kimi. If you have any idea, if you run a business, you can do so much more with AI. You just need to start thinking. Just literally go on there, ask Claude, hey, how can I incorporate you to make myself more efficient doing this? If you don't have any ideas, but the ideas will come if you start like messing around with it. Because I see a lot of people say, I don't even know what to do. I don't know, and it's like
you don't seem to understand. Earth isn't
yours
to conquer.
Yeah, I'm just
At
saying.
Zeb Boykin sent $9.99 on YouTube. Money is cyclical between Microsoft, Nvidia, and OpenAI. It's artificially inflated. Everything is fake and G.
Well, yeah, I mean, like there's definitely like a lot of speculative, I would say, overinvestment in these companies because they haven't actually demonstrated like their profitability just yet. Like I said about OpenAI.
Yeah.
But regardless, this stuff's not going anywhere. And as far as like how it affects you, think about it. Like I'm screwing around with Claude. It is phenomenal what it can do. Like think about if you had an idea for an app or a business or whatever. Think about what it would have taken to realize that vision, even in a limited capacity. You would need like a team on the payroll of coders. You'd have to communicate this vision, iterate this vision with those people who know how to code, who know how to build stuff, and they have to understand it. But you also need the money to pay for it. You maybe need some capital investment. You know, you can essentially vibe code your way to something at the very least functional for $20 a month. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
No, I'm on the same page as you. I guess one thing I would even say too is like, well, even if that were to be true, does that not also go in lockstep with what you put forward at the beginning of this, which is that there is a cost threshold that they cannot overcome. And so if they cannot overcome it, would not be the best answer to that be then to start faking or inflating your investment, your value to encourage to have more kind of leverage overall to get further investment to keep pushing for the things if you're already competing at a disadvantage. But I guess secondarily to that,
positive feedback loop. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And even secondarily to that, it's like, I'm wholeheartedly agreeing with you. Like just seeing how, I mean, I use it almost every single day, constantly, and some from those basic tasks of all time too, which sometimes I feel bad about. But you are right in the element of it is another tool of consolidation, right? I think of in the same way, like the phone consolidated how many different pieces. Like think of the iPhone, right? Before you used to have like your cell phone, you had like your MP3 player, then you had like your VHS was at home, it couldn't really come with you. But the iPhone consolidated multiple tools all at once more efficiently and in a better way, and it's vastly preferred, and everything else became instantly obsolete. The same way I see this as AI, and we're not there yet, but it's approaching that. It's the same way you kind of look at the advancement of technology. It's like the only way that it stops is literally calamity. And in that same vein, I see it doing exactly that, which is consolidating what you had said. Coding specifically, this one of these strong ones, which I think is a huge kind of a fearful moment, especially if you're like an early coder or you're like an entry coder, you may just not be relevant anymore if AI can do it faster than you. But consolidating like AI art, like imagery, the better that it gets. And I think Fable is the leading model, right, with content creation. I think Fable 5 is the one that's pushing out like the video game emulations.
Yeah, Fable 5 and Kimi. I'm seeing some comparisons. And dude, like, and I don't know if you're following like the gaming industry, but like there were massive layoffs there too in Microsoft and Xbox, over the last couple of weeks. And it's like, and I'm seeing people like create like kind of mini, like I saw somebody create like a little Animal Crossing like game. And you know, it's still a little basic right now, but you know, you look back at like 2023, like the video generation, like a classic example, somebody made a compilation of Will Smith eating spaghetti in just over 2 years. Like it went from like this Lovecraftian horror nonsense to like, it's actually damn, like really, really close to being like completely indifferentiable from
well, it's funny you said
reality.
Lovecraftian because I remember it because the Will Smith one, the reason why it's highlighted like that, not because it's like, here's this random video. Like, no, like that was the first one. I forget where they even showed it at, but it was like the first ever like AI video. It's like we finally moved away from these AI images, which the AI images I still remember like early on Midjourney when you could use it on Discord, and you know, generate with your support ticket. You could do it like once every like 2 hours. And then now where it's at now, like now it's being used for thumbnails. Now it's being used to edit thumbnails. Now it's being, you could take a Photoshopped image from a creator, you put it into your AI editor, and you make the AI do it one step better. And again, it's just a consolidation. Like, I don't really know how to feel about it in terms of the overall job market right now, but I do see it being ultimately like it is going to eventually come to a point on this trajectory where it will consolidate all of those things. Like there will be no reason to go to Fiverr and try to hire a couple random coders to put together your startup project. Or there's no reason to even go to Fiverr anymore at all. That's already happening now to get a storyboard put together if you had some kind of comic book idea and you need an artist if you were the writer, or vice versa. Say you're the artist and you need a writer. Well, now you don't need, I mean, either which way you look at it, it's like, especially in all the forms of creation too. And I think the reason why it actually specifically even has a higher emphasis here in America is because what does America become? We are we are a services nation. We are dominated by services. And if AI is a service oriented machine, well, then it's coming for the primary element of what many people make their living for here in America, whether you are working for a corporation or whether you're doing it on your own. And so there was a lot there. I'm glad you brought this up because I didn't even know that about the Kiwi. I guess I'll marry it to where you have this clip here. This is Nick Fuentes saying people are sleeping on Claude, and he has mentioned this quite a bit actually in the last couple of weeks, which is to his AI artists and his AI, instead of, we need to start vibe coding these things into real life, which I do like when he says that. But here's the clip of Nick on Claude.
And it's changing my life, man. Also, have you noticed this Kingdom of Heaven online LARP? It's out of control.
No, I haven't seen the LARP, but dude, I told you, I've been trying to tell you, Claude is a game changer. All these fuck faces are like, he says you could just get rich with Claude. He doesn't know what it's like out here. The tools are there, bro. If only you knew the power. If only you knew the power of Claude, but you're too dumb to realize it. Do you realize this is just such like a game-changing invention, and the adoption? There's probably like 1% of the population is fully utilizing what the cutting-edge models are capable of doing. It gives you such an but people just don't. And it's like, I'm done convincing people. It's like Bitcoin. It's like 15 years ago. The Bitcoin evangelists were begging people, saying like, please, it's called blockchain. It revolutionizes payments. It solves the peer-to-peer payment problem. Like it's going to be the future. And people said, so it's like digital money? Okay, bro. What could you buy with it? And then 20 years later, it's worth $100,000 a pop. Same thing here. Like, the technology is amazing, and people go, I don't get it. What could I use it for? Anything. It's changing everything. So I'm done trying to convince people. Get with it or get left behind.
Mass best.
So I want to turn it back to you because I agree with him here. I'll turn it back to you. It's like the last thing on AI if we move on to something different. What would be some of your, like, if you could give like 3 quick tips of somebody who is intrigued by this, says, okay, maybe you're right. What is the first couple of steps I should take towards AI?
That's a good question. I would say first and foremost, it's very easy to be intimidated because, sometimes you don't even know where to begin. So just begin, get on Claude, start asking some questions. any idea that you have, let's say, I don't know, maybe let's start creative because maybe that's the easiest one to visualize. Maybe you have an idea for a book or an original story. Start bouncing some ideas off Claude and ask Claude how it can help you or how people are using, or it doesn't have to be Claude, you can use GPT, whatever you want to use, how people are using it, just start, look at what other people have accomplished with it. Even like the videos that they've generated, and just start using it. That's really my advice for anything that maybe you want to get started in, is just start. You'll learn, you'll get a better sense of what you need to know once you start. Don't feel like you need to wait until you have the right tools at your disposal. Don't fall into the toolbox fallacy. Just start. And you can incorporate it into small tasks, but just get really familiar with it. Take note of, I guess my second advice is take note of which prompts generate you more desirable results, because you do have to learn how to prompt it properly. And so try to flesh out your ideas, your vision, and be somewhat specific with the output that you're looking for. Maybe you want like a quick and dirty graph. Like I asked Claude to, and I actually ran this through GPT and Brave AI as well, quickly to plot electricity costs in China and America versus year. Really quickly, I could tell you the exact prompt I asked. But you get the point. It's like, what exactly do you want? And the more you use it, the more you'll get a better idea on how to use it. It's like a tool. It's like you pick up, you pick up a wrench for the first time. Maybe you don't know how to use it, but after you use it enough, you know exactly how to use it. You need to get your reps in. And then I guess last preferred model right now is Fable 5, but I might try out Kimmy. But on Monday, Tuesday. Monday, I mentioned that they're going to give you like $100 more in Fable credits. So I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Because I burned through. They have a promotion right now, and I've burned through like, let me see here, a ton of my credits are like usage rate. Like my Fable usage, I'm at like 76% used over like 3 days. I've been grinding.
Nice.
But yeah, right now Fable is I'm really liking it. GPT has kind of been pissing me off lately. Just
funny.
I think it's kind of fallen behind. It's like, to me, it's a little lazy. Like I asked it the same question, and let me see how many sources it pulled from. A good number of sources. I don't want to do the math right now, but I thought that the answer that Claude gave me was more comprehensive. But play around with all of them. Another, I guess, final piece of advice: you don't have to be married to any individual platform, which they are leapfrogging each other like crazy right now. So, if you get a certain output, like you get code from Claude, like Claude spit out a couple, like a program for me, you can just take it and like plug it into another model. You can take that. I'm probably going to take that, give it to Kimmy and see like, hey, what do you think about this? Can you improve this in any kind of way? And then just compare the end result, what you get from all of these models, and which one you think is better. So literally just start playing around with it, and the ideas will come.
Interesting. Yeah. No. I think most people probably know this by now, but like, for those who didn't, I've been working actually behind the scenes on multiple AI projects. I've actually, that's been like the main source of my work since like 2022, on multiple different platforms as well. I've done voice AI analysis. I just got scheduled in to do another. I was one of the first selected actually to begin a project that starts on July 31st. For more AI audio analysis. I was one of the first people who actually was doing work on what became Gemini. Before it was named Gemini. I always forget what it used to be called. It's been so long. But AI like runs deep, and there's even more AI even beyond the big names, like beyond Claude, beyond Anthropic, beyond all of that. And I can't say much because obviously I'm on contract, but the amount of effort that's obviously going into these companies and the amount of money that is flowing through these things, like that is not fake. Let me tell you, as someone who has been working along with AI for the period of time I have, there's really no shortage of money flowing into these companies trying to get people to do extra work to help build these data sets for AI and to continue this overall long process. What I will say though is it has become clear that I think the IQ ladder has already begun getting pulled up on this, and so I'm noticing there's higher and higher and higher requirements, if you will, or you need to have shown a bit more that you are capable of understanding like the ins and outs of AI and the analysis and, like you had said, the prompting. And to let you know another thing too, I had a conversation. This is when I was working as a life insurance agent. I actually was working helping someone get and look for a life insurance package. Was this 2 years ago? It might have been 2 years ago. But she actually was getting ready to, and I can't tell you the university, she was getting ready to put out some of the opening thoughts of bringing in a new degree, a new school that was all centered around prompt generation, AI prompt generation. And so that was like 2 years ago, of a very, very, very highly acclaimed school, where she is one of the, I forget what her exact position was, but she basically sat on this board. And her board, one of the things that she was in charge of was monitoring which degree programs should be removed, should we keep in. So it's kind of like an annual review. And she's the one that was in charge of that. And so they were beginning to put forward some of these elements that were, well, we need to start this because we know it's coming down the pipe. So they began the kind of basic skeleton structuring of what should go into a curriculum that was all revolved around giving someone a bachelor's degree in terms of this person is an expert on AI prompt generation. And so, just having that conversation with that lady like a couple of years ago is like, they're taking it for real. Like, if this is someone who's at a university, at the university that she's at, and again, I can't tell you, but it was like, oh wow, it's like, okay, like that's coming down the pipe. And people need to, and what you should also understand is, when I was going to the Ohio State University, the big degree that got unveiled, I think it was in 2013, leading into 2014, was data analysis. Okay, data analysis was huge in that period. And the reason being was because AI really hadn't come over the hump yet. This is also the reason why Palantir is also so highly acclaimed in the government, is because they were having struggles with such large amounts of data pools and such inability to comb through them in such an effective way, at least to maximize, and be efficient in that. Which is, if you don't know, that's what Palantir does for the government. That's what Palantir is so highly sought, is because of their ability to comb through large copious amounts of information, be able to produce results that would be meaningful and directive. Now, obviously, largely do it in surveillance ways that we don't appreciate, but that's what it's used for. Data analysis is like that. It's not the thing anymore. And then in a couple of years, it's already been. And now the gears are changing towards AI. Now, if you were somebody in data analysis, you're already probably using AI. Now, your job is probably already like linked to AI at this point, because what would you even be doing in data analysis without using AI agents at this point? You're just like, it's like a person who's going to go to, do algebra 3 with no calculator. It's like, you're literally retarded.
Yeah.
You use the tool. Like you're only shooting yourself in the foot because of this. But no, I mean, that was a lot of great information on AI, especially about the Kimmy stuff. I hadn't seen any of that. So great insight into the China angle. But is there anything you wanted to say before we move on to? I want to go to the Confederate one after this.
Oh no, we can go ahead and move on. Yeah.
Perfect. We'll go into and see, for me, it's like even if we go on a tangent, like I appreciate it because I appreciate learning. I don't know about the rest of the guys in the audience, but anything I'm like, it's new to me or new information, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I want to know more about that. So we're going to go ahead and go to the Confederacy, which I believe this one came on Wednesday. Now, I know we're changing gears pretty hardcore here. Obviously, we're going from AI now, talking about all those dirty people from the South that nobody likes or appreciates, namely Zeb Boykin. But we are going to talk about this clip that kind of blew open the doors, if you will, on a bit of a different conversation, a different dialogue, and that is the North versus the South, and who is actually more based between them. And in the words of Nick Fuentes, he said Lincoln by a mile. Here's the clip.
Join us for a Confederate meetup in Georgia. Dio Vindice.
I'm good on the Confederate. I don't support the Confederacy. I support Lincoln. You guys rioted against the North to keep black people here. Lincoln wanted to send them home. The real red pill is that the Confederacy was not based. Think about it. Think about it. These hillbillies killed 1 million white people so they could keep black people in America. They're the least based army of all time. People say, rebel yell, down in Dixie. Bro, you started a brother war. You launched a brother war that killed 1 million people for your right to keep black people here because you didn't want to pick your own cotton. Abraham Lincoln wanted to send them back. Look it up. Abraham Lincoln wanted to send them back to Africa. Abraham Lincoln wanted a colony in Liberia to send all the blacks there. Then he wanted a colony in Central America. He wanted to send all the blacks to Central America. He wanted them out. You think the North was like not racist? The North was more racist. The North has always been more racist. I think MLK Jr. said he never got more racism than when he went to Chicago. And they say the same thing about Boston. So no, you rebels and Dixiecrats and Confederates, you killed 1 million of your brothers. I won't even say my people weren't here yet. They killed 1 million of their brothers for the right to keep black people in the country. Well, they were enslaved. Okay, but like, so what? Now they're not. So yeah, no, I will not be going to the Confederate meetup. I'll not go for the Brown Clown Defender meetup. We have a right to keep black people here. And the Imperator, Abraham Lincoln, founder of our nation, true founder of this imperial entity known as America, said, I don't think so. They're going back. And it was numbnuts that shot him and prevented this. If Abraham Lincoln served out a second term, he would have sent him back. It would have been, imagine how different things could have been. If numbnuts hadn't shot him, what did he say? Death to tyrants or whatever? Okay. Some Jeffersonian filth. Jeffersonian filth said, death to tyrants. And he guaranteed 100 years of BLM. They would have been in Africa. We would have been in outer space. Okay. If numbnuts hadn't shot Abraham Lincoln, they would have been back in Africa. We would have been on Mars. Chicago would be an interstellar entity at this point. Chicago would have a sister city on Venus after we terraform the planet. You know. Century of Progress, Columbian Exposition, Paris in the Midwest, and Detroit. Think about how different things could have been. Think about how Detroit and Chicago and St. Louis and New York and Philadelphia could have been without this problem.
So 1,000-year Reich prevented by the Confederacy. You know, we play Space Hammer, or Warhammer Space Marine. To us, it's a video game. But there's somewhere in an alternate timeline that is actually how the United States of America played out. Was it became the empire, not of just America or of the world of Earth, but of the solar system, of the Milky Way galaxy, of perhaps the neighboring entities in space vehicles nearby us too. And it's such a great. To me, what this demonstrates also is taking and also like the skills of him being an orator, but it takes a deep running rivalry that's that goes back and forth over all these different topics. But he takes the strongest element of what seemed to be the base element of the Confederacy and flips it on its head and goes no, actually think about it. They literally did actually fight to keep black people here. Like that's actually what they were fighting for. When you reduce it down to what it is, in a technicality form, which is that's what they were fighting for, was they wanted to keep them. No, I like my black people. I 2 more, please. And but in that sense, it's if Lincoln, and also obviously the other pressures he was facing from this too, if Lincoln were to allow to have the clean shot to send them all back, I think most people look back at that and they go, well, that would have been vastly preferable to what we have now. And it also goes to what I've always brought up about with Malcolm X too, right? Now, think of what you say about Malcolm X. To me, Malcolm X has always come off as the much more organic voice of black people than MLK ever will be. And Malcolm X is this more organic voice of black people. Well, what was he pushing for? You know, I always mix it up, but it's like separation, not segregation, or it's like a segregation, not separation, one of those two. But he wanted to segregate too. He wanted to separate the peoples. He wanted us to operate in and of our own societies and recognize that for what it is. The same things we're still fighting for now, which is this race realism. And that goes back to like what you'd said about some of these, even in these opening topics, which is we have to start being honest about these conversations. But the honesty in that conversation would have to take the form of getting people to recognize the reality of the races. In the same vein of getting to recognize the reality of Jewish people, the reality of, you know, Islam, the reality of Muslims. But in order to even begin to establish that, you have to tear down the idol that is, you know, blank slate, expressionism, egalitarianism as a whole, because they're quite frankly, they are just flawed ideas. And I would say even worse than flawed ideas, they are abundantly obvious to any person with common sense can look at those ideas and go, this is clearly not true. The average person has access. They could run a hypothetical experiment themselves. They could take 2 of their dogs and make them fight. No, I wouldn't recommend it. You could take 2 of your children and make them fight to the death. You could do a lot of things that would obviously demonstrate that egalitarianism is not a true thing, because egalitarianism at its core promotes this idea. It supposes that everyone is equal, that all distinctions are basically nominal. It's just like a difference in coloring. It's a difference in whatever you want to put it. But until we can actually get to put the rubber on that road, it's like I really don't know how we begin to actually start combating this stuff, because we have to be honest about that, and that's like the very first step.
Yeah, and I think it's just like, I mean, these are just basic observations that people can make. The whole blank slateism that describes people as essentially just a hollow vessel that gets filled with your environment, your experiences as you live life, as you get educated, whatever.
Yep.
That's inherently everybody is capable of the same thing that everyone else is capable of, at least intellectually. But that clearly does not hold up to scrutiny. And these racial grievances like that, they're such an emotional black mail that is being thrust upon people, where you confront some of these realities. You maybe offer this alternative worldview or explanation for like why some groups of people are like chronically underachieving. And you say it's wrong. It's because it's due to no fault of their own, just certain genetic limitations. And they just obviously they call you racist. And what maybe they like a lot of people can see, maybe they don't understand, but what they can see and what they are aware of are like the quote unquote inequality. Like they can see that like black people on average make less money than white people. They can see things of that nature and they can point to it. But the answer of, well, genetics is the reason why, or behavior, that is unsavory to them, obviously. And people don't really like that answer for a myriad of reasons. One, because it suggests hierarchy, and it's a hierarchy that cannot be overcome by any of your means. Like you cannot realistically change your IQ or your disposition. It is pretty ingrained at birth. It is your genetics, and you are largely an expression of those genetics. And so it is sort of this helplessness that I think people don't like, but it's also the inherent unfairness of it all. You know what I mean? It's like, due to no fault of anyone's own doing, they are either more or less capable than somebody else.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do about that. But we already live that way. You know, some people are born rich, some people are born tall, some people are born, you know, into a wealthy family. There's already inherent unfairness baked into the equation. But people don't like that. It's like they are limited in nature, I think. That is what people do not like. They like the idea of possibilities. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's been effective rhetoric for white people. Like one of the reasons why they've been able to gin up this white guilt is because it does kind of make you feel a little bad. You know, you see people living in like squalor and like in Africa, and they're like banging rocks together. It's like, oh, come on, little guy. Like you can build that, you know, you can do it. You can build a 2-story house. You could figure it. You know, I think that's like the altruism that is very prevalent in a lot of like Western countries, where like there is part of us that wants to see other people like succeed. And we want to like, in a certain sense, we want to see like our culture, which I think a lot of people don't really understand. They want to see Western culture, our civilization, and they want to see other people embrace it. We like to share. I think people in general like to share. You know, you talk to a Mexican friend, oh, they'll tell you all about how much they love Mexico and Mexican food and music and their experience of being Mexican. And I think there's a part of that, you know, really speaks to our, you know, our you know, this sort of sensibility, our social ability, and how we want to share. And unfortunately, that's been exploited against, you know, white people's interests.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know, well, I think you're right in the very beginning, which it puts it back on the people who are complaining. You know, the response is like, well, I guess the end result of that, you know, logistically speaking, you know, if you were to go from A to B to C with that, well, you would go, well, then there really is nothing wrong then. It's just like, this is always going to be that way that it was. And one thing I would even say beyond there too is like, think about how the complaining of the inequality, and obviously, you know, it's like people point at, the one example I always bring up is the chick who was on Fresh and Fit. She got into a back and forth with Women Propaganda, and Women Propaganda, and he's a great dude. Women Propaganda, he responds back, or he says something to the effect of, you know, there's like we should be putting more of these black people in prison. She responds, well, there's already more black people than everyone else in prison. And his response back to that, was correct, because he goes down the line of like per capita and all that. But I kind of honed in on the reason, like, why is she saying that? Right? He's going, we need to put more black people in prison, like to make our society a safer place. She responds with, you know, with anger, like there already is inequality. Like there's already more black people in prison. Because it's coming from the worldview that in a just world, in her worldview, there would be 25% black people in prison, there'd be 25% white people in prison, there'd be 25% brown people in prison, there'd be 25% Asians in prison, because that's her worldview. Because her worldview is informing her that everyone's equal no matter what, right? And like, so that's why she responds with that. And the per capita argument is just, it leaves the bounds because they simply can't even grasp it. And the reason they can't grasp it is going back to this base belief of what you're saying from this, like this justice standpoint. And it kind of does bring together a lot of what like the woke left is, which is, you know, nominalism, blank slate. Everyone can be perfect if they were given all the right tools, education. But it goes down to this fundamental belief that it has to be equal, despite there being a numerous amount of just like, if you just go outside and open your eyes, so many instances of things not being equal and outside the bounds of those categories, like what you had mentioned with the billionaires and the trillionaires and everything else. And they take this kind of justice position to it, which kind of it mirrors their oppressor versus oppressed dynamic they iterate with many other things. And you kind of just sit there and you think like, what even is the response to that? Because they've done a great job of kind of consolidating a lot of what you would say in response as like racism. Like it's an automatic, like, you know, you say per capita, you kind of see this stuff too in like their talking points or an influence campaign where they're going like, well, if they bring this up, it must be a telltale sign that they're racist. And that's the defense mechanism is if someone tells you anything in response to what you're saying, they're racist. And the way they kind of won this over by marrying all this to things like Disney movies and the institutions and Hollywood was because like the feel good stuff that society tells you is all based in that same bullshit too. Where it is like the big victory of the day is the boss girl does prove that she can work from home and do this thing that her boss told her she couldn't do. It's the justices, the black guy does win, and the bad white guy goes, and so it goes down the line of all of these things. And I've struggled to even begin to understand, like, I don't know how you could start to reverse engineer that. Now, I would say two things beyond there. I think the women are the ones that are brainwashed, and the men that go along with it are the ones that are searching for poon. Not all of them, but I think that does make up a huge category of people who are inside these spaces where it's the woman who fell into that. Because you think about it, like, do you think any left wing guy like feels great? Like any left wing white guy feels great about being a part of the left? Like, no, it's like he just basically sits in the corner of the room while everyone points at him and they go, and it's because of you. And you did this. And it's like, who's held back the trans movement? And they go back to the white guy. You did this. And they're like, and you know, and who gassed the Jews? They're like, you did this. They're like, who enslaved the black people? You did this. They're like, who was having a great time in the 1950s? Well, it wasn't black people. It was you did this. And so everything. And so you look at that and it's like the only reason they're even there is because it's like that white knighting phenomenon. You know, they're like, as long as I can take the heat and I can go, yeah, no, I think you are a great woman. Women are equal. Terrible men. It's like, it's in this vein. It's like the sneaky fucker syndrome. It's like they're doing all of this to mimic so they can gain access to sex. I wouldn't say that would be all of them, but I think that's a huge amount of them. So one person, go ahead, my bad. I'm kind of ranting here.
I was just going to say, like, sex or status, like, for a lot of these people, it's a grift. Like, they don't believe in the thing that they say. But, like, there's a market for, like, young white guy Democrats. I mean, I saw that lineup of, like, you know, like Dean Withers and, like, those other, like, Democrat white guys. And they kind of look, you know, I don't want to knock their physical appearance, but, like, they don't exactly look like the most, like, you know, impressive guys in the world.
Off,
and
you would say?
a little off. I think some of them are just like have sociopathic tendencies, like Dean Withers having that, like, you know, like you see like his early attempts at like being like an influencer, and he's like pretending to be like, he's like a teenager or something. He's in his mom's SUV, he's wearing her glasses, he's pulling like stacks of money out of a bag. It's like, I'm an influencer, and it's like he's like it looks like he's like trying to emulate some of these like red pill hustler guys, you know, like, you know, get on the grind, make money. And then he pivots, he grifts into like left wing or liberal politics. And he has like these moments of like pure psychotic breakdowns. Like, I'm sure we've all seen that clip of him crashing out over, it's an anxiety pen, it's not a bait, you know, and he's like crying on
I got one right
stuff,
here.
and it's yeah. And so it's like, this is not somebody I think is particularly stable or honest or genuine. And a lot of people are just in it for the bag, you know, like they really don't believe in what they're saying. And it's like almost like a game to them. It's like they need to win the debate using debate tactics, because then they can benefit. Like, they don't actually really care or believe. They're not really principled. And I think, like, you know, Destiny is a good example of like a sort of liberal debate bro, where is he principled? Not really. He's kind of this just degenerate. And I think a lot of politics on the left and right are just like that. I mean, you look at some of these people in the right wing spaces and they're like total fucking scumbags too. There are a lot of right wing conservative cucks, you know, and some of it is an age thing, like, you know, like Tucker simping for his wife. That clip that there was another Nick clip where he was talking about that again, where these older guys just like don't get it. But yeah, continue on your thought. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I mean, I would, you know, one of the things I thought of when you were saying that was, I'm like, you know, if I ever get a chance to meet Dean Withers, I'm going to ask him to sign my anxiety pen.
Yeah.
No, but beyond there, you are right. And one thing I would even add on top of that, one interaction that really kind of caught me off guard with Dean Withers specifically was he was on, I think it was on Steiny's podcast, which I'm forgetting the name of. Either one of the maybe it was a Nelk Boy podcast, I think, or maybe it was just Steiny's. I can't remember. This was maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. And on it was the girl by the name of Emily Austin. Are you familiar with Emily Austin?
Oh yeah.
So she is one of these. I don't really know where she's at right now, but she was kind of like brought onto the scene as one of these, essentially kind of honeypots for Israel, but just the digital format of that. And she had this interaction with Dean where she like literally calls him out. She's like, dude, like, listen, you're being a little gay about this. You know, like you're being weak, you're being beta, and you can almost see like he gets like there's like an anger response in him. But he doesn't back down from what he's saying. But it did strike me as like it clearly does bother them on an extreme level, the same way like the anxiety pen does. And that is, I think, why they have such a debate style performance to everything they want to do. Because even if it's not Dean Withers, it's like, think of the one who came up with him, right? His name was like Parker.
Yeah, no.
Parker Get a Job. They're the same way. They all they were trying to get a win. Like they need to get a win on something. And I think it's because at the base of that, they know, like maybe they don't know, maybe they're kind of getting to that point, but like the truth isn't on their side, which is why they're always so desperate to get those. The same way that that Brian Shapiro guy is getting absolutely, like, literally, for lack of better words, like he's literally getting raped in every debate show he goes on to.
Yeah.
But it's like he's trying, because like that's what he needs to win. He needs to convince someone that he's right. And you think about that, but think about, he's standing on the shoulders of of Jewish institutionalized destruction, deracination of our country. It's like every institution like literally already agrees with you, but look how desperate they are to still trying to get a win over a conservative. And
Well,
I think that goes right into
exactly
what you're
right.
saying. But go ahead.
The one thing, the word you used to describe it was perfect. It's performance. It's performative. It's the same thing with Sneeko. People like Dean Withers come from the same ilk as Sneeko in a sense. There's this very apparent like inferiority complex. And I know maybe it's not like, maybe it's a little in poor taste to like try to psychoanalyze somebody, but like, you know, like Dean Withers is like a short guy. He's like what, 5'6" or 5'5" or something. He's got like little man syndrome. And if it weren't for his podcast, if it weren't for being like a micro e-celeb, like he would be like a completely unremarkable person. And so there is this posturing, this dance, this need to like assert himself. He exists and he lashes out. You see people like Clavicular, it's like the complete opposite. He's like laid back. Like he commands the world, you know. The women come to him. Dean Withers needs to do the fucking jester dance. He needs to do the song and dance. He needs to like champion women's rights because he has no shot. And he knows that instinctually. So like calling these people out, the same response that Sneeko has when people call him a brown clown, he feels like completely inferior. He feels alien. He feels subpar compared to everybody else. And it's like, it's like, guys, maybe you do. Maybe these guys really do need some self-help. You are enough. You are enough. It's like, so much of, I saw like people like Home Math put this thing out today. This is somewhat related, where he was like crying about like all the problems he has in his life and like why he can't like get anything done and why he's like dysfunctional. Yeah. It's like, dude, so much of your life is mental, is your mentality. Your life could always be worse. Like be thankful you are here right now.
You could be
you
black.
And I, we could be. Not true, but we have two working eyes, right? We have legs. We're functional. We're not like disabled. Maybe mentally, I don't know. But the point is, like, things could always be worse. There's always something to wake up for and be thankful for. And so like, it's just these people that are constantly seething, and don't mistake that for complacency. Don't get me wrong. Like you should always like strive to be the best you can be, make the most of the cards that you've been dealt. But like you see these people that are just like resentful, and they're like, they're just like self-pitying, and they wallow in the self-pity. And it's a little complicated because, sometimes you're dealt a bad hand. Like, I'm not going to deny, like, the obvious example, like, white men are getting a pretty rough deal in universities and in the job market right now. You will not be the beneficiary of DEI. But that being said, like, dude, everyone's got their struggles. Like, be thankful that your life is not worse. You could have been born in India, okay? You could have been born without legs. There's so many things that could have gone worse. So just be thankful that they're not. And that hopefully is a humbling experience.
Well, I think there's a big divide in that too. I mean, like, one of the things I think that would explain that would be like, that's as somebody who is capable of being grateful versus somebody who is incapable of being grateful. Yeah. And I would imagine you probably feel the same way. Like there's an element of this, and it reeks from many people. I wouldn't even say this is maybe even a left or a right thing. But people call it main character syndrome. But what's at the base of that is the deservingness of it. Yeah, everyone looking at themselves, entitlement, yes. Entitlement, deservingness. Like they see something and they go, I deserve to have that, with no rhyme or reason either. It's just that they see something. And part of this, I would also imagine, stems from poor parenting. parenting that is removed from Christian values, that goes into things that are just maybe more basic, which I guess if you removed them from Christian values, you had no direction. I mean, you probably do just have this kind of dynamic where the parents are like, get a good job, get it. Where the parents are like, without God, there's no forward vision. So it's all materialism based in like the best thing that they can get in this life. And if you have many people's parents are raised removed from Christian values, it's telling them, well, they deserve the world, they deserve everything. And there's no message in there from God or from Jesus Christ, which is, for one, the salvation and truth of God. And then two, the reality, which is to be grateful for things. It's probably a huge misstep inside of that. And even with that, I mean, let's just be real about this. Like, there is this reality, which is so much of what our economy has become, so much of what drives everything now is this attention economy. Well, what is the attention economy? What actually really is it? Well, the attention economy is like the reality, which is the average person now can just take this thing, put their face on it, talking to the camera, and if you look good enough or you speak good enough, you could be a millionaire tomorrow. And the reason why I say that is not because it's like, some people are good creators, some people aren't good creators. It's to say that, like, before that dynamic, how it usually played out was like, if you wanted to be someone who was worth your weight in talking in front of a camera, you had different pathways you had to approach that by. So if it was in Hollywood, well, it was like you had to go act. And if you were to go acting, you had to go to like acting school. Or if it wasn't an acting school, you were like kind of picked up because you were noticed or you were scouted out by somebody at like ballet or something. And they find a talent and people find you, and then you go and maybe you get picked for a bigger role. Maybe it turns out to be better. But there's all these like steps in between there where it's like before you can be maybe accredited, or you yourself view yourself as someone being worthy of the credit you are being given for the position you're talking about, you actually had kind of trials and tribulations to go through. And you kind of look back at those and you go, yeah, I was in acting school. I did go out there and break a leg. Hell yeah, I was in the High School Musical. You're like, yeah, I am an actor. Like, that's who I am. I deserve this. I went for it. I worked for it. I got it. Nowadays, it's like you have the IG problem, which is, and I think this goes back to like ethos. And part of the reason why I think looks maxing is such a big thing now is because most people begin to realize, like, wait a minute. One of the big reasons, right, in the logging, one of the big reasons why some people can just point the camera at their face and be successful is because like they're literally attractive and I am not. And that, like, I think that has also put like a huge kind of reverberation out there too, which is why so much is becoming driven by just like the visual appearance above it at all.
Yeah.
And when you remove all of that, it also goes back to like why the people who end up blowing up or becoming big or becoming popular end up letting so many people down is because like there really was nothing there. There was no sustenance. There was no substance. It could have been in right place, right time. Like you had the lightning strike behind him when they were, yelling at the camera, or it was a girl who were seeing this happen in huge amounts, which is they are, building their careers and their kind of clout off of the back of in their prime, 17, 18, 19, they go on. And then now they're 30 years old, they're losing it a little bit, or they're getting married. And so I think there's so much inside of that you removed it. You kind of remove all the elements that actually led someone there to even believing in and of themselves they were worthy of the attention. But now, because everything is just now driven by social media and all of that, there's so much more obvious and visual psychosis. To go back to like with Dean Withers, where it's like, yeah, if he didn't have that, he would be an unremarkable person. I can't see Dean Withers being an actor. I can't see Dean Withers being like a Hollywood movie star. It only literally is in the context of YouTube being a thing. And inside of YouTube, you have people who are famous because like they have VTuber accounts. So like they're getting famous for just maybe the way that they sound, their voice. It's like there's even smaller, minute things that people are becoming niche and being popular about. And it's so much that's why I preach. Like, for one, most cases, your ethos precludes you. Before you even say a word, many people have already written you off with a judgment based on the way that you just looked and appeared and walked up to the stand. And another side note on that, I think it's part of the reason why no matter what Will Sexton may do, as long as he's on the camera live streaming and he's blinking so hard that it would make you like jump backwards because you think something's about to happen, it's going to be an ailment that will ultimately hold him back in certain categories. Not that I would say to hold him back completely, but because ethos is such a big thing, it's like you have to hold that into account. And I think people have to actually really take that in. Before, you could be like a big Jack Jad and whatever, you could kind of scoff at it. I think now if you were a young man trying to make your way into society, it's like you can't ignore it anymore. Because it's like, I mean, go back to the home math example, not people, right? Like that's how women view all the men under 10s. It's like not people. Well, that halo effect is not just with women. That halo effect is with your job. That halo effect is with your interaction and with your customer service agent. That halo effect is if you wanted to do a YouTube video, you put a camera on your face. Well, if you look like a fat big nothing, well, you know what? How many people are going to tune into that? Not many. So I think that the important elements in there. Not to rant too much. I didn't want to.
No, I mean you're right. It's like maybe not everything is in your control. Like some people are born short, but you're certainly in control of your weight, like what you eat. Yeah. And so like if you're just like a fat, unkempt piece of shit, then it's like that is a outward representation of your own decisions, your own values, your own inadequacies. And like people instinctually clock that, And yeah, some things are like not in your control, obviously. But no, it's absolutely true. And it's brutal out there. It's totally brutal. But as far as like people getting into like podcasting or politics in general, like politics is a specific one, where, they used to say, they might still say this actually, but it's 100% true. People that can't make it as actors go into politics, and you see a lot of that. Like, I think it was, Candace Owens and Lauren Boebert shared the same talent agency. Fun fact.
Theater kid occupied government.
Yes. Was that John Doyle? Did he say that?
Yeah.
The point is, like, some people are in it for their own clout, self-aggrandizement, and not because there's like something very surface level, very petty, very maybe materialistic, and not because they really truly believe in something. Like they don't believe in the mission or the ideology. They're here for their own clout, their own paycheck, their own self-aggrandizement.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell who's real and who isn't. Real recognizes real. So.
Yeah. Specifically, like in the lens of like somebody like JD Vance, right? Like I think JD Vance represents that like by a mile. This kind of just like how it was illustrated with the clip, and I think that's probably a great segue to this clip too, is watching kind of Nick really kind of tear into the fakeness of how JD Vance was like presenting himself.
Yeah.
Because going into what you were saying, like these people come into it for their own self-aggrandizement. It's like they don't probably believe it at all. Maybe they believe it a little bit, or maybe they believe it just because they believe it will get the money if they say it. But the real thing is like they're good at making you believe they believe it.
Yeah.
Which is really like the main element of it. Yeah. So I'm going to go to this. This is from Thursday. This is one clip that we do have from Thursday. And this is part of the reason why there's no, how did he say it? Reasonable, moderate position on the Israel issue. But here it is. And here's the clip. It's probably what we finish on. Here's this.
Okay.
Actually, put up on the wrong thing. Forgive me. Maybe not. Not yet, I guess. Let me do some magical work with my tabs over here. Let me put it up. This is a longer clip. I don't know if I'll play the entire thing, but I will play the main portion of it, the main gist of it. And here it is.
What Israel critic can get behind this rhetoric? You're the reasonable moderate. There's no reasonable moderation on the issue. Either Israel influences our country or it doesn't. Either they're trying to and succeeding, or they're not or failing. Well, we know that they're influencing the country. We know that they're doing it successfully. We know it has dire consequences. And Rogan is pressing him. He says, listen, it's not just about some of it. He said it's all of it. It's the spying. It's the money in politics. It's the corruption. It's that they're behind the wars. You don't get to do a drive-by snipe acknowledging, Israel tries to influence, like whatever though. No, it's not whatever though. There's no reasonable moderate position if you're America first on whether the number one beneficiary of U.S. foreign aid is going to be manipulating our country and spying on us and working against our interests diplomatically. There's no middle ground on that. You're either America first or you're not. Either America has primacy and everybody else comes second to last, or you're not. There's no moderation on this issue. And you can't not mind that they're undermining us. So this makes nobody happy. And this is why, like I say, I just have no faith in Vance. I don't know what he believes. Who is he trying to fool here? Is he trying to fool the Israelis on our behalf, or is he trying to fool us on their behalf? Because there's also, and this is something I noticed with Trump also, there's a tendency among the multitude to think that if Trump contradicts himself, like let's say, for example, he supports mass deportations, But then the week after, he says we're going to staple green cards to diplomas. There's a tendency among the multitude to say, well, if Trump contradicts himself, if he says something for us and then something for the donors, well, he's only saying that thing for the donors because he needs their money. He doesn't mean it. He supports deportations. He wants deportations. He has to pay lip service to the other stuff to get their money. And it totally ignores the possibility that it's the inverse, that he doesn't care. He needs the money. He's going to deliver on the green cards for the money. The deportations, that's something he says to us because he needs the votes. He's not pandering to the middle or to the donors for the money. He's pandering to the base for their support because he needs their votes. Similarly with J.D. Vance, because Vance is a chameleon, I actually don't know which Vance is the real Vance. Is it the real Vance in 2024 when he said we need to bomb Iran? Or is it the real Vance after we started bombing Iran and he said, oh, actually not a good idea. I don't know which one's the real one. When Vance says Israel influences our country and I'm America first, is that the real Vance? Or is it the real Vance when he says, but I'm a reasonable moderate and I don't know if they influence our country and I don't mind it and I get it. And we would have went to war with Iran anyway, even without their influence. You don't know. There's no ideological core. There's no conviction because he's not really talking. Those aren't his real opinions. Those are carefully crafted talking points to appeal to me. And so if you're trying to appeal to me, if the rhetoric appeals to me, it almost does nothing for me because I don't know if it's appealing to me because that's what you believe or because you are intentionally trying to get me to like you so that you can extract what you want from me. This is the problem. He's a chameleon.
And I guess I'll save the final portion of that, but it is still worth watching because he does get into the fanaticism element of it, especially between Israel, and part of the reason why you either go all the way or you're labeled an anti-Semite the rest of your life. But the key point there, basing off what we had just talked about, is this is going into the insight of probably, and also too, what's maybe left out there is thinking about how long he's probably spent, him and his staff and whoever else, trying to curate these points about Israel, because knowing that the writing is on the wall and knowing this will be something they're going to have to contend with. And much like it's been theorized by Nick, between Tucker and Joe Kent, these guys kind of almost being fall guys, not in the sense of they're going down and out and away, but that they kind of led the charge first and foremost as people who were already seen as commonsensical, closer to the truth Republicans, closer to the establishment Republicans, people you can go and vote for. And if they start making pushes for it, not in the same way that Nick Fuentes does on Israel, but in a much more measured response, one that doesn't talk about the Jews, one that just talks about Israel and the government of Netanyahu, it will be received as in the same way as both appealing to the base of people who are, many who have been following along with Candace Owens and everything else with this broader, Israel did it, Israel critical group, but still in their eyes, hopefully escape the majority of the blowback of being seen as anti-Semites or somebody who wants to, rip out the Israel cord from the country. But again, all of it done in a way that's very, I think for me, it's just, and probably you the same, just watching it for so long, seeing how obviously fake it is. But they're doing this all to give you, the people at home, a performance to get excited about, a performance to go, oh, I remember when JD talked about Israel on that JD Vance, on that Joe Rogan podcast. Maybe JD Vance will be the guy that kind of puts this conversation to an end forever. But it's all done in an attempt to get you to believe that they actually will do it and to put the ball in the court, much like how he was getting ready to reference there with Trump and in the back and forth between Trump base and the donors, to put the benefit of the doubt into his court so that when he is also facing a lot of these things, when he's contradicting himself or there's very clearly obvious oppositions, you find yourself going, you know what? JD's a genuine guy. JD's a trustworthy guy. And it gets you to rely on your own human nature, your own gullibility, your own naivety to believe in someone. Because again, at the base of that, I think the average person, everybody really, wants to have hope that there is some hero. There is some person who will change things for the good. And there will be. And when you get somebody like a JD Vance who has been protected by these elements, who obviously isn't getting attacked like Nick, and who obviously has not even ever once gone as far as Nick, that it does give him this airstrip really to kind of launch from. And we've already kind of seen it. We've seen it coming down the pipe. It was always going to be seen as like, if Trump goes to war with Iran, well, anybody coming out of the Trump camp or the MAGA administration is going to have to tangle with that first and foremost. Like, it will be the number one thing they're going to have to face in a debate, which is, what was your involvement with it? Why didn't you stop it? All of that. And we've watched, it's getting like, daily logged. JD Vance, what did he do today? How did he put himself in front of the MOU today? What is he doing right now that's going to serve as political ammunition on the debate stage years from now? Because that's how they think about these things. That's what a politician is. And I would say that probably the one thing, and I'm borrowing this from, I think, right-wing coalition, I do believe, but JD Vance is like trying to be the perfect politician in a world that is not built for politicians anymore. Like, and I think you should have learned the lesson from Donald Trump. That's the reason why people voted for Donald Trump, was because he had such kind of almost mastered this element of appearing as a business guy, closer to a regular person than one of those swamp creatures and one of those politicians. But JD Vance is going back into the camp of Obama, which is, what if I expertly like get ahead of everything? I can wizard my way with words and you use my charisma, if you will, and try to kind of dodle people back to sleep, as I try to walk it closer to power. But again, it all goes back to this performance and really the self-aggrandizement, because at the end of even the question that's not asked in all of that, because most people don't really even care because they care about how it affects them. One of those questions that you probably should ask is, what is JD Vance getting out of this? What is he seeking to gain by doing this, by having these positions, right? The changing to, becoming Catholic with an Indian wife, all of those things that like begin to like, you go, that seemingly doesn't make sense anymore. But nobody asks it though, because again, the average person, when they're looking at the context of these problems, these mechanics, they're looking at it from the lens of how it affects them, how it can better them, because it's how most people think when they're going to the voting booth, voting for someone to be their president, mayor, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, your thoughts, Melo?
Yeah, I guess what is disappointing is seeing how many people it's like we're right back to the Republican plantation. People like Tucker have been like really leading the charge and just getting people to buy back into this sort of old school Republican. Like we're rewinding the clock like 20 years. It's like everyone's getting blue pilled again. And that's why, again, I go back to that one clip and just these other sort of exposés, just exposing these people for who they are and for what they believe, why their rhetoric doesn't make sense. Because if you really investigate JD Vance, first of all, he's trying to placate two parties that are directly opposed. And so his rhetoric ends up contradicting itself. Like, how can you be America first, but you're like kind of indifferent to all of this foreign influence over our country? Like, you can't please both parties, but at the same time, people are just, they're buying it. They're so credulous because he has positioned himself as the reasonable voice, like you said. And I think for a lot of these MAGA holdouts that are still, if you're not like on the payroll, people have staked everything on Trump. And it's honestly, in a sense, it's kind of sad. Right. People they've sacrificed personally, sometimes professionally, emotionally, economically on this vision, on this dream, on this man that promised to be our champion. It's like the possibility that he is selling this country out, and the way he is right now to them is absolutely horrific and unconscionable. It is too painful of a revelation for them to go through that they'll just gaslight themselves. Oh, this is okay. Oh, it's 4D chess. Oh, but it's not a big deal, actually. Or, oh, the Democrats they're way more corrupt than the Republicans. Whatever excuse that they come up with, because they're protecting their own investment, their own personal emotional investment in this. They've they've staked their whole credibility, their identity around this. And so to say that like this man that we put all of our dreams, our hopes and dreams on, is royally screwing us over, not only does that make them feel utterly like ridiculous and stupid. They're like foolish for having bought into any of this, for having, gone to bat for this man. But it's like the next question is, well, where does that actually put us? We are way further behind than I think people are ready to accept. Things are more dire. It is worse than they're willing to accept. No, patriots aren't actually in control. No, this isn't actually 4D chess. And we just wasted 10 years of time of our lives. And the country is continuing to crumble. So,
yeah. Well, and to go even further and apply that to another example too, is all the people beyond looking at it for how sad it is, which I do agree with you on that. Many people who would, look at somebody like an Owen Schroyer who's like publicly, personally, had costs applied to him because of going along with this and being a fighter for this movement for Trump. But you even break it down, you go to like the day to day, you go to personal effects, personal affairs, to like the average person, find Joe the plumber at home. Well, what was he posting on Facebook, right? What was his interactions with his family? Think about how many like family, even inside the family, let alone friends. Think about how many families where like parents are now at odds with kids, or kids or brothers are at odds with sisters, because of maybe what they posted, what they pushed, things that they argued for in either for or against Donald Trump, and how that's affected, and how many people now stand to like, and maybe have already faced the bell, for like wearing the egg on their face for what this has ultimately turned into. And I would think that, and I would stretch that one more. Think about how this is going to play out in the Charlie Kirk case. Once we get to the trial, all the people who have invested and pushed and went heavily into it. Now, not to say that I think it will stop, depending on what the conviction or conviction may not be in the trial, but just how when you get that deep and you have staked so much, whether it be Candace Owens or Ian Carroll or Baron Coleman, and you stake so much of your credibility onto this being a real thing, and it shows itself to be not, it's like, well, then you're going to see how people really are, who they are at the core, when they have to face the music on that, which is, are you going to get someone who acknowledges and says, hey, you know what, I think really that, I think I was wrong? Or are you going to be in 2.5 years from now, Candace Owens still dropping every other Sunday more things about Egyptian planes, and, Charlie Kirk actually did it. And it's sad because I think a lot of people really can't face the music. Too much of it will go. And I mean, and certainly I think for somebody like a Candace on that level, that's certain career death. I think many people will probably stop listening. But I guess it kind of depends on how they behave, how they act, really will determine how much those consequences will be. But yeah, I mean, I think about it at a sad level too. People probably lost friends, don't speak to each other, have bad relationships with friends and family. And then now they're looking at this going, well, maybe I should have voted for Joe Biden. Maybe we should have.
Yeah, they're saying the liberals were right, I guess, maybe for the wrong reasons, but like, doesn't it make you feel silly? Like, some people blew up their lives for this man. Like they didn't even know him personally, but they went to bat for him. Some people went to jail for him.
Right.
And there's no other really way to describe this other than a total betrayal. And some people, it'll just be perpetual cognitive dissonance. And the Charlie Kirk thing is particularly bad because, like, this is why you just can't be wrong. Like, you cannot stake your credibility on something and then be wrong. You really need to do your homework before you go out and you, like, definitively make a statement on something, because this is like setting us back quite a bit. And a lot of people are checking out because they look at the conversation. Oh, maybe there's something going on with Israel. Let's see what they have to say. And you tune into some of the most prominent Israel critical voices, like Candace Owens. She's talking about Egyptian planes, and you have people talking about palm pistols. And now Candace Owens, I don't know if you saw this clip, but she's like speculating, maybe it was supposed to be me. Maybe I was supposed to be on that tour. Yeah. Maybe Israel wanted to kill me. It's like, are we serious right now?
Yeah.
Like, do people not see what's going on here? This blatant narcissism, and whether it's an op or not, this is totally torching the credibility of the truth tellers. The people just asking questions, and then on the other side, the more reasonable, like kind of somewhat institutional voice with Tucker. He's talking about demons. He's talking about, oh, I'm just a traveler. I don't actually know anything about Palantir. Actually, I don't know. Just don't know. It's like, okay, so he's got an opinion about everything except for, yeah. And so it is incredibly frustrating to see this happen. And, will these people ever be held accountable for being wrong? Probably not. Like Hannes, she'll probably if she's really pressed, she'll probably flee to Russia or something,
Well, I think in the best case scenario that they're not, because I think in that scenario, what the justice to them will be censorship.
Well, yeah, that would be they're actually unironically making a case for censorship. Like they are making a case that the left has made for a while, that you have these morons on the internet perpetuating misinformation, disinformation. They are not intelligent. They're not intellectuals, and they're making people schizophrenic and stupid. That is a real criticism. That is a fair criticism now of the right that the left has. And people morons like Candace Owens and her followers just hand deliver the left that ammunition.
You know what you think will seal the deal on this, actually? And I'm actually very fearful of? I'm very fearful of someone who's coming from one of these Candace camps trying to do something violent at the court case, at the court trial. And I think that will seal the deal on that. That puts the presidential address on the envelope that goes, this is done. YouTube, full send. You want to ban these people, tighten the rules up, whatever. That's what I truly fear. And it's such a remarkable step back, because we've only even been in this kind of open air space for 4 years, 5 years.
And it's been completely abused. People are not being responsible.
Right.
And so they want to censor, they're killing two birds with one stone, because they know, Israel knows they're in a tough spot. They know they're losing, public support, international support. They call America one of their fronts in their multi-front war. And so they would very much love to censor voices that happen to be Israel critical. Oh, that's a baseless nonsense conspiracy theory. Look at how crazy you've made people of these past few years, and that will be the justification. And and I have to speculate again, is this, on the other side of things, you've got, again, Elon is reposting this Citizen Vigilante movie.
Yeah.
Which I know it's based and all that, it's very we indulge.
Cathartic,
But you have to wonder if some right winger, heaven forbid, does something violent, and somehow connected to that movie or that rhetoric, that sentiment, those talking points, and then all of a sudden the censorship hammer comes down because they have a credible reason to do so, and I think that's I think that's problem. And again, I'm going to put my speculation hat on here. Elon owns this enormous platform. I mean, he's affiliated with the federal government. He's a defense contractor. He's had a CIA handler for 20 years because that's what he does. He got his start in defense contracting through seed funding through In-Q-Tel. What is In-Q-Tel? It's the private investment arm of the CIA. And so, and of course, he's rubbed elbows with Peter Thiel. They were both part of the PayPal mafia. Yeah. Now Palantir is embedded in all of these government agencies, can deliver through Doge that is now defunct. So Doge is dismantled, but Palantir stays. And everybody is having this conversation on X, of which Elon owns. And he also owns XAI, of course, which is the third largest AI platform in the world. So if they wanted to build algorithms to detect certain sentiments, right-wing, left-wing sentiments, think about how that could very easily be weaponized against us, even against Elon's will, if the government decides to step in and subpoena Elon and X and takes control of that in some capacity. And now it's they've essentially built a profile on so many people in this conversation, and they could detect, quote unquote, speculation, and they can detect anti-Semitic tendencies or dog whistles, whatever. Yep. And you combine that with how you could get boxed out of the economy, or not to be dramatic, or maybe they'll fly a little Anduril drone and blow your head up or something as soon as you have a anti-Semitic thought. But you get the point.
They're gonna make us wear stars. If you ever had a Groyper or a frog in your profile, you're gonna wear the star.
Yeah. And so, and don't get me wrong, Elon has in many ways helped us immensely by opening up the platform. This is not me attacking Elon entirely. I just have to speculate, because we are in this very precarious position right now. And it's worth reminding everybody, do not Fed post. Do not do that. Do not think about that kind of stuff. Everybody is very emotional right now. You look at I don't know if your timeline is like mine. It's like constant material designed to like piss you off. And it's not, I don't even want to call it necessarily like rage bait, but you're seeing like, Indian scammers, you're seeing, another black person stabbed an innocent white person to death. It's like a constant barrage of this media. And the effect is, I think it's somewhat demoralizing, but it's provocative. It's very provocative. Yeah. And you'd be remiss if you thought that they didn't know that this is going on. They can see what people are interacting with. They can see the sentiment. They're parsing through all of this data. They know what people engage with. And, you have to speculate because it's very opaque that if they could use some of this against us, then you have to assume that they would.
Well, I've even like taken that one step further with like the Nick Shirley stuff, where it's almost like is that a specifically like is that like a high IQ form of that? Like it's like a high IQ rage bait, because what has been the end result of Nick Shirley going to it's like 100 cities now? How many Somalian and Haitian businesses are we now aware of that are completely entirely fraudulent, that suck money out of systems and like nothing's been done about them? Because I think about the thing in the same way. It's like this has got to be designed to piss people off, to bring maximum awareness, and then have nothing done about it.
Well, I think the right is using that to point out like fraud in like blue states. That's why they really glommed onto that story, because it's like, oh, look, Tim Walz and Jacob Frey, this is what Democrats do, and they at that point in time they were like really playing heavily into the racial grievances. But the way I interpret the whole Nick Shirley thing, it's like, dude, if some guy, some 20-year-old, not to attack him for his age, I'm saying this as a good thing. If some young 20-something-year-old guy takes it upon himself to like audit these people and finds like overt, just immense fraud, like day one, immediately, like 7-figure instances of fraud in like these like daycares or whatever.
Right.
And like, dude, just imagine. Like, what? First of all, what is the government doing about this? What have they done about it? Not a lot. And so it's like, if it's that easy to find, it begs the question, like, well, how rampant is this? It's to me, it's like the country's gone, man. It's over. It's over. And one of the reasons why Trump doesn't really want to do anything is because he's doing it himself. It's like, it's almost like not like they're colluding in that sense, but it's almost like a handshake agreement, like not to rat on each other, because everyone is engaging in fraud. Now if you watched Nick's show, I think was it Thursday or Wednesday, when he was talking about how Truth Social is
monetizing the Truth Social post. Yeah.
Dude, it's like, so look, it's over, man. This country is done. The republic is collapsing before your eyes. And not to demoralize people, but it's like, that's how bad it is. They're finding instances, and like healthcare is, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars minimum in fraud, like unbelievable amounts of fraud. And it's just happening blatantly in front of your eyes. Nothing's being done about it. It's over. It's done. It's cooked.
Yeah.
So not to demoralize people, because the question is now like, well, what comes next? What comes after this fall of the republic? Like, like the phoenix from the ashes, I think the empire will rise. Not to be LARPy, but that is like the only way we fix this problem, is through like strong authoritarianism, because everybody is stealing. Everybody is stealing, man. So
the king returning. Imperialism becoming the empire.
Not to LARP, but like seriously, like that. But what it depends on, because it's kind of like, you can see how this can go either way. We can go full DSA, communist, brown clown route, or we can go glorious Roman Empire, Chuds win again, you can see how it can fork.
Right.
Things don't just happen. People need to show up. And so we have an opportunity. It's presenting itself to us, and it's on us to capitalize on it. So.
Yeah. And even beyond that, it's like, I was taking the steps forward towards that. And, people want to, they do the Fed posting. The funny part about it that always kind of, it gets me, I think you probably agree with Keith Woods on this too, is like understanding that we are we are the little hand in this, like in this scenario, like we are in the minority, like the enemies are at the gates.
Yeah.
They have all the power. They have all the control mechanisms. You can, it's not reason to post that you're going to do something criminal. It's like,
Yeah.
like it answers itself, obviously, which is like, if those are known factors, it's like, it's very obvious that posting about it online will do nothing. Actually, it will help you not at all.
Yeah.
Not to say that online internet can't change sentiment, but it is in the sense of, if you think that posting a Hitler edit is going to make this country a better place to live in again, or anything close to what it once was, is entirely out the window. And also, to your point as well, there is no going back either. Like, there's no going back and reversing the hands of time. We're not going back to what America used to be. It has always been a question of what can we convert it to that it better serves our interest. It's always been the question of like conversion and rebuilding, reforming. It's never been a question of, complete, I guess, reversion, which would be like reverting back to like the 1950s is never coming back. The modern woman problem is not getting answered for, and we're never, not a single one of us will see the modern woman problem solved in our lifetime. It's just not happening. The amount of indoctrination that's going on in there. So it's like, in those veins, it is going to be, the question is going to be, what will America become? Just like how you stated. And in that sense, though, it is vastly preferable that America become an empire. We continue this kind of expansionism. Maybe I would want in the form of an inquisition. That's not going to happen. But in the form of an expansion as an American empire, as it kind of, at least in a sense, convince and uphold what we would disagree with, but the West, if you will, in terms of getting people on the same page of overall globally, it would be vastly preferable that America stand and remain than it be conquered and fall from within, because then you are going to only be left with the East. You're only going to have Russia and China. You won't have a West
Israel,
that faces it, and Israel, and whatever that becomes. And I think they already see the writing on the wall with that, even with Israel, right? Israel's already reaching out in extreme amounts in the last 15, 20 years with India. Many people might have missed this too, but when in the early onset of the war with Iran, I think this is early 2025, it was like the vast majority of all the Mossad agents that Iran was pulling out of the country and deporting or charging criminally were Indian. And the reason being is because that Israel has always been keeping multiple eggs in multiple baskets. And I think one of them is, if the American experiment fails because we push it too far, one way or the other, we will ultimately have to have some kind of financial backing elsewhere. And all that to say, it's not looking pretty like for the future. And again, even inside of that too, like the majority we're talking about, it's like surveillance systems, AI, flock cameras, drone warfare. And, that's why it is imperative, not only just because of the technology in and of itself, but because the rate of technology is just continually getting more exponentially like fast. Like it's kind of insane how it's kind of kept folding in on itself, where it's like, you see from the horses were used for how many years, and then we get the car, but then it's like a shorter period from the car to like public transit systems. And it's only a matter of question, I guess, from where we're there. But even beyond that, you didn't have to go anywhere from there, because not many people needed to go to work anymore, because work from home became a thing. And then you keep having like these innovations you wouldn't expect. And I think that inside of itself implies that you have to be very adaptable, very prepared. You can't have a kind of goal plan that can't be adjusted or moved or managed in any kind of shape or way. Because if you're not adaptable, I think in an era of extreme technology, I think you're just not going to make it. And I even think too, it's like Hollywood gets that thing right. You look at any advanced, monster in any kind of series anymore. Well, what's it happen? Well, the guy shoots it with his P90 and it's like, it does nothing to it. You know why? Because it was like the moment it landed on Earth, it was like, oh, I adapted to your metal technologies. It no longer works on me. I'm immune. And so it's like, those are what I think to expect in the future of technology. And I think it implies what you said at the very beginning, like people need to get into AI. Even if you're not working with drone, weapon technology, you need to be at least a part of the game and not be left behind. Because we saw what happened to Detroit when people didn't want to play that game. We saw what happened to West Virginia. People didn't want to play that game. We have historical examples of this, and people did not want to play ball with Father Time. Well, Father Time.
Yeah, it's like imagine like not getting on the internet. When the internet took off. Like think about how far behind you would be. Because I think this kind of stuff will be incorporated into like just about every workflow. it improves productivity. I'm even seeing really cool ideas on how, not just in terms of like productivity, but to even like improve your own cognition. You know, I saw this one article. This guy talks about linking it with your Obsidian account and essentially using it as like a second brain. So
Yeah, Obsidian's a
all
good
the things you
platform.
talk about, it's a great platform, and it makes these links, and so you could essentially tell Claude or any other, probably Claude would be the best, to like build this neural network. And so the stuff maybe you say, maybe you record yourself, or any ideas that you have, you know, you can pull a transcript, and then it categorizes it into like an Obsidian file, and you use it as like a second brain so you don't forget stuff. And to me, that's like really ingenious, because what is like one of the biggest prerequisites for a high IQ? It's your ability to recall information.
Right.
You could functionally, like with the aid of AI, or like improve your sort of operational IQ. I think that was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's good stuff. I would encourage people to do that stuff too. Obsidian, even without the AI integrations, a platform worth using, especially if you're anybody who is a creative, wanting to build up your own, like, you know, what do they call them? Mermaid diagrams? Is that the right? Is that the right? That's the right term for those things. Draw boards, you know, all that stuff. You know, I use, because I send it to you all the time when we do the collabs. But I use Craft for just outlines. Like, there's all these different technology. You know, and it just kind of blows me away when I see people who like don't do that. And then I also think it's like pretty easy to hear it too.
You don't seem to understand.
Thank you, Smelly.
Earth isn't yours to conquer.
At Smelly Balls sent $2 on YouTube. Two of my favorite yappers, yapping. Great content.
Yeah, that's a W. I appreciate it, man. But we did go a little long. I wanted to turn it back to you if there's anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about.
I think we covered just about everything. I did put a clip on Nick talking about the Odyssey, because you know, I think that movie just came out and everybody's talking about it, but I don't know how interesting maybe that is.
We can do it. Let's rip it.
Oh, sure.
Let me. Have you seen the movie yet? I've not seen it.
No, I haven't. But I'm with Keith Woods, man. I think the Chuds are right on this one, 100%. Like, I just think it's so egregious.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, obviously, it's like it has Ellen Page in it. Like, there's just like three big ones, right? It's like you have the transgender in it, you have the Helen of Troy Black, and then the soundtrack of it was coordinated by Travis Scott.
Yeah,
you know, and then the whole thing's on like we want to pay respect to like historical. I mean, like, what is it? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
it's like that's not real. But yeah, it's a short clip. I'll go ahead and play it. Here it is. The Nagacy. That's great.
You know, I was excited for the Odyssey, but not now that they have like Zendaya in it and Travis Scott. It's like, I really did not want to chud out about that movie. I really didn't. I saw Keith Woods.
We are going to have Chinese.
It's like every day with this guy. The Odyssey just named another black actor in it. It's like, bro, who cares? Give it a rest. But he's right. I didn't want to shut out over that movie, but I'm going to have to, because it's just getting excessive. It's just gratuitous. When they said that black girl was going to be the woman, I was like, that's crazy, but whatever. When they said Zendaya was going to be in it, I was like, okay. Travis Scott, bro. Christopher Nolan. I mean, come on. What are we doing? So I was excited, but now my excitement is dampened, to say the least. I'm still going to go see it. We're all going to go see it, obviously. But yeah, what are we doing with all these nogs, man? The Nagacy. They should call it the Nagacy, because it's all nogs in it. No nignogs in my Odyssey, just whites. There's no nogs in Greece. There's no nogs in 4th century Greece. 5th century Greece. Like, come on now.
And it's just like, yeah. Like, what are we doing here? I don't, and you know, it kind of does. I think in the same way that people talk about the Daily Wire, people need to talk about Hollywood too, because I think it's becoming a lot more apparent. Because where's all the money going? How is it box office flop after box office flop after box office flop over the
Yeah.
same exact things, but it's like it doesn't matter. And I think the same way that people talk about, the Daily Wire, and I would even throw in the Blaze in there, being essentially they don't work for profit. They operate because they know if they keep the Hasbara going, there will be a Jewish investor that will bail them out at some point. It's got to be the same way with
You don't seem
Hollywood.
to understand. Earth isn't yours to conquer.
Mermas sent $3. They also used a translation of the Odyssey by a modern feminist author.
Yeah, that is true.
That's crazy. I just
So
want to flip tables.
Yeah, and so I've been seeing Keith Woods has been going to war on this movie, and I'm totally with him. It's like, because now they're like moving the goalpost. It's like, oh, it's actually, these people don't actually get that much screen time, and it's like, dude, what are we doing? You've got like an Indian guy, you've got like an Asian dude, and it's like a trans person, and it's like, this is ancient Greek mythology, right? And I love how they pretend like like it's there isn't like somehow like a black Helen of Troy is like just as proximate as like if they hire like a woman of like German ancestry. It's like, well, she's not Greek. It's like, so like they pretend like those two things are like equally passable or of equal like similarity to one another, or rather to the third. And like pretending like they don't understand really what the criticism is. And there is this like yeah, you have to suspend disbelief. It's a story of mythology, but it's one that is set in ancient Greece, right? Like if you were to, and I read at least parts of the Iliad and the Odyssey back in grade school. Like that is, at no point does it say like Helen of Troy was like sub-Saharan African. It would not even be like a part of the conversation at that point in time. It's not and that there are many things to like pick apart, like the way that they're talking, like they're from California and stuff. Like I understand you do have to like craft a movie for the audience to some degree that is going to be consuming it if you want it to be a commercial success.
Right.
But like with that being said, it's like, I'm seeing people like moving the goalposts, like based people, like just the like contrarian right that are like saying it's not a big deal. It's actually Kino because Christopher Nolan does it again. And it's like, dude, you people will just accept anything, man. At a certain point, I look at this and I say, I don't care how, and I think I tweeted this. I don't care how dazzling it is. I don't care like how impressive Christopher Nolan is as a filmmaker. It's like, this is so egregious. I'm just not, I don't care. I'm not with this. I can't like, like on principle. And it's very obviously it's one thing if, and it's like one thing if you're like Nick or Keith Woods and you've got influence and go see the movie and give your take. But it is like, sort of the obvious question is, can you imagine if some of these roles were reversed? Can you imagine if they told a story of like, imagine if like Black Panther, I know people, this is like maybe a little trite at this point. If there was an all white cast and like Ryan Gosling was T'Challa, or maybe this is maybe more apt. Like if like they told a story of like Moses, parting the Red Sea and all the Israelites were like, sub-Saharan blacks and Indians and like Chinese people and Mexicans. Like, I think that like, can you imagine like what Israeli Twitter would be saying, what Hebrew Twitter would be saying about that? They would boycott. They would say that this is like an affront
anti-Semitic.
to anti-Semitic. They're erasing Jewish history. They're diminishing the struggles and the acts of heroism of the Jewish people. And like they would clearly boycott that and they'd be outspoken about it. They wouldn't like go after their own, it's a movie, you guys are shutting out. No, they would be militant about it. Yeah. And the way I look at it is, if you are like just this normal, like this normie that goes to the movie and sees it, they're laughing. They're like, oh, look we got this fucking idiot to pay money to see a movie that's like shitting all over, his own culture and history. If you're like somebody that like, would hate what it represents and you go see it, either because you're one of these contrarians or because you want to like hate on the movie. Well, you're also giving them money. Like, look, we got this stupid Goy. Look, he's seething. He's seething. We got this. We rage baited the shit out of these guys. They're seething, and we got their money. It's like, dude, you know, it's like
it's painful, is what it is.
What
like,
are we
just
doing?
to see it, like just to see it in action is painful. You know, to see the guy who birthed some of my favorite movies, like The Dark Knight, produced this. It's just like, you know, you just have to, you know, it's everyone has their time, you know, everyone has their time in the moment. But one final thing I wanted to say before we go ahead and we sign off here. Mark Vendy said, "This is what I don't understand about Atlas. You speak as if we must evolve with the times. Where do we accept a young Beyonce playing Helen? Like, what's the line? Nick is just like Redeemed Zoomer." Well, the first thing I would say is comparing a retconning to actual history of like people who were literally not black in these times is not at all anything categorically the same as accepting the literal objective in reality, which is things improve and advance.
That's got to be rage bait, right? That dono has to be rage bait, right?
I would, but then he followed it up with, quote, "Infiltrate institutions, but never specify when, where, or how to unmask." And it's gotten to a point where I struggle to understand it, unless it is rage bait. Maybe it is rage bait. But I don't even understand how you would even compare those two. Like, in what world would I ever say I would tell you to accept Beyonce as Helen? I don't even understand how that makes sense. Especially looking at
there's no equivalency there, yeah.
Right, there's no equivalency. And the categorization is like, are you seriously, are you saying like you should, I mean, what's the argument against adapting with the times? Like, why do you not ride a horse then? Do you ride your horse to work? No, of course you fucking don't ride your horse to work, you fucking idiot. Like, you drive a car. And when they invent something better, like when everyone has the EDY, you know, Model 3 or whatever for like $10 a day or something, and whatever that turns into, you'll be driving that too if you're still around. It is like, you would not, if every person had access to a power tool, they would not use a wrench.
Yeah.
We're talking about technological advancement and the way that it implies and affects society. It's just, that is just a thing that you have to contend with.
Yeah, it's like, what does one have to do with the other? What does AI and technology, the evolving tools at our disposal that we build our economy on, that we interact with our society, what does that have to do with like this movie? What does this have to do with this creative endeavor? You could call it propaganda. The two are not even, they're not in the same realm. They're categorically different.
Well, I will say, it's been my understanding that I think that a lot of this anger to push, like the anger and pushback towards people like me and you and Groypers in general, for arguing for not Fed posting, is in some way, shape, or form seen as like the only way out of this. Is like, again, it goes back to like just wanting to be violent and like wanting to organize and like having this belief in some way, shape, or form that like you are going to raise weapons against this government. Is just like, it's at a certain point, it's like, sir, you either need to get with the program or I'm going to have to ask you to leave the room. You know, because you don't entertain the schizo homeless guy or have conversation, do you? No, it's like, that's the reality we're in. It's like, you just have to acknowledge that. Like, will you flatly acknowledge that? Which is that there is no world in which we are like, we're going to rise up against the little superpower in the world. Especially when we know how deep Palantir has been in. We know how deep, I mean, all of this is in. You know, and
go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
Go ahead. You want to jump in there? Go ahead.
It's like, dude, it's so impulsive. It's honestly so feminine. It's like this sort of like, somebody do something. And it's like, somebody should destroy, like the flock cameras. It's like all these people saying like, you should destroy flock cameras or advocating for it. It's like, well, have you taken any out? You know, like Dan Bilzerian calling. Here's the like irony of Dan
and Clint Russell too. Clint Russell was doing the same thing. It shocked me. I was actually disappointed in him.
Oh, Nick is a Fed because he's advocating that people don't destroy property. What? Like what? In what world? Wait, no. You've got it backwards. You've got it completely backwards. Do people not know? Like, it's just insane. Like, have they forgotten what happened in like January 6th? Have they forgotten how asymmetrical this is? But it's just like, is that who we are? We're just gonna like, you know, ape around, like grabbing a bunch of bodybuilders hanging off of power lines, tearing down these cameras. Like, what are you talking about? It's so ridiculous. It's so stupid.
Bro's
it's reckless.
Well, you're going to carry your iPhone 17 with you as you're destroying the flock camera. It's like, I don't know what to say anymore.
Dude.
I just like, it's gotten to the point where I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm just like,
I know you're carrying around a personal like spy device with you at all times, and like the flock cameras are. And I'm not a fan of the flock cameras. None of us are, But like, get real, dude. I like, holy shit, these people are morons. These people are like either like some kind of op, or they're just genuinely like just stay away from these people. Like, they're just freaks.
to push back with love, I would say like that social adaptation is in no way, shape, or form anything close or similar to or operating on any of the similar principles as engaging with adapting to technology and the way that it reshapes and informs like your life. And I mean that like, in the most honest way I can. Like, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I mean, like, where were you when Edward Snowden had to flee to Siberia because of the NSA leaks and WikiLeaks? Your TVs have been listening to you since most of your children have been alive, and let alone all the facial recognition technology, all the shadow profiles that have been built. I mean, even when your iPhone's not on, it is using its camera at times. It is using its microphone at times. We already have a numerous plethora of court cases that have been resolved, tried, and convicted upon Amazon devices that weren't even turned on in rooms. Like, we are in an era of which you have no privacy. That's gone.
It's gone.
It doesn't matter.
It's been gone. It's gone. Dude, they're looking at your schlong every time you get on an airport, dude. It's like, it's over, man. It's over.
Right.
Well,
think about the Chud the Builder case. Think about how this guy has literally everything, by all accounts, by all the evidence, he should not be in jail right now. And you could make an argument, perhaps maybe you get a slap on the wrist for some provocation or some disorderly conduct, for sure. But look at the lengths they will go despite you being in the right. Do we all forget Kyle Rittenhouse? Did everybody forget Daniel Penny? And they weren't even defending themselves. They were doing what was considered quote unquote right. And we had to fight for normal people to defend it.
Yeah.
Like, we are just so far beyond the bounds of like this doing anything but trying to figure out our best way forward. Like, we're not even in a position of like, this is like a surefire thing we're doing. Like, Groyperism represents a constant revolution of reaction. It's like basically a long-standing reactionary chain of like us learning and continuing to adapt. And the reason being is because prior to Nick, we didn't have that. We had just like establishment politics. We had GLR and Pat Buchanan and people who did try the usual way. And where are they at in history? You think the average person even knows who Pat Buchanan is unless it's not referenced in a preamble about Donald Trump? Nobody, and GLR, even on a lesser level, and GLR is probably one of the best people I've speak of that's an orator outside of Nick Fuentes. Gone.
Yeah.
Like, his history is just erased. And it's like, we stand to reason losing all of that too. It's like, I go back to Keith Woods. He said it best in his Substack. The recognition of the asymmetry of where we are and where they are is in no way, shape, or form a point to stand on to say, and now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to Fed post. Now I'm going to revolt. Now I'm going to. It's like, that's what they want you to do. I hope we're getting
an example out of you.
Yes, they make an example out of you. And if on a great enough scale, what I would imagine they would like to have, on a great enough scale, they will use that as ammunition to ensure it never happens again.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's where we're up against. It's like, it's almost like I'm more irritated at the fact that people won't recognize the asymmetry, or the fact of that they do say like, oh yeah, this thing and like this has happened. Look how all the thing, look at all the drones, look at all the Palantir, and they go, and you know what'll solve it? I'll post this Hitler edit online, then I'm gonna go shoot guns outside. Oh, dude, it's like
yeah.
And it's like, I feel like I'm in a position like where I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you actually. And it feels like we're getting attacked. And it's like, but I will say to throw the bone there, I do understand it. Like, don't take any of this as like I am any less mad or angry at the situation we are in. I'm not. I'm just trying to apply with the utmost precaution, strategy, and tactic that I can to avoid losing all the ground that we have gained. And I think people are also they are irrespective of that. Like, dude, 7 years ago, this thing doesn't exist on YouTube. I never have any success on YouTube. You never even know who I am without what has occurred just in the last 7 years alone. And we stand to lose all of that because of things like what's going on with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. And that's why I say I fear, deathly afraid of someone taking up the ante. And you know what? They're going, it's all fake anyways. It's all theater. I'll do one for the right guys or for the good guys.
Yeah.
And then they go blow down. They go blow down something at the courthouse, and then that stands. And then we'll never hear the end of it. It'll become, what day is it? It'll become August 9th, and everyone remembers August 9th now because that was the day that this idiot went in there and shot up a courthouse because he listened to Candace Owens, and now here comes all this censorship coming down the line because they have to.
Yeah, and
So
it's
it
not.
just-
And remember, it's not fair. It is very asymmetrical. They two-tier justice system. All of that stuff is true, and it's frustrating. It puts us in a very nobody likes the unfairness of it all. But you can't be emotional. You cannot let your emotions dictate your actions. Like, you need to be reasonable. So
Agreed.
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, it's just this toys and Atlas being under a soy spell because I'm too afraid of AI. It's like I'll bring up the Stargate example again. Like, there's a great example in Stargate where these guys who they literally had just freed are trying to go back through one of the Stargates because like that's their way, that's their tradition, that's what's masculine. For them to turn away, it would be seen as like heinous, and they'd be cowards. Like, of course, they have to go march into battle. But what they don't know is on the other side of that gate is a death ray, and every person who walked through that Stargate before they even were reformed, both their molecules put back in place, they were just beamed into death. And you have the guy screaming there going like, bro, there's no way you win this. We have to regroup. We have to find out a new way, another way around this. You can't just charge in there head first. They go, we appreciate your forewarning, and they march in anyways. And the rest of the episode is like having to figure out what they do with those people's children because they went headstrong doing something that they could not shake themselves from on an emotional bend, and then they'll leave their families desperate. And it's like, and it was like, and and there it's a bit more understandable because it's like you have the people from Earth who have the technology and like the UAVs and drones who can like see ahead a little bit, trying to talk to the townspeople in the village who have none of that, who just have like basic staff energy weapons. And it's like that's how I feel talking like this. It's like, bro, like you're begging for things to get worse. You're begging to meet your own end for no reason. And it's like it's in those lens where it's like I really wish it was easier for people to acknowledge maybe the reality for what it is, and not. I mean, because it's like it doesn't mean anything to me. Like, you can call me a coward all you want, it doesn't mean anything. It's like the same thing as when a person screams cracker at me. It's like you just okay. It means nothing. It will never mean anything. If anything, what I would say to you, it's like still being charitable, is like I really hope that you think about the things you're saying and start to grasp some of the realities of the life that we do live in. Otherwise, I mean, who knows? I mean, I really, really hope you wouldn't push yourself to do something terrible like that. I really hope you wouldn't ultimately dictate your life around some kind of idea that's ultimately dead in the water, and it's probably been dead since in the early 2000s. But I think far be it from me, far be it for the wise man to argue with the fool. I think with that, we'll go ahead and end it. Anything else you want to say? Where can they find you at, Mello?
Oh yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Mello FYB. I need to change that handle, but yeah, subscribe to my YouTube. I'm trying to hit 500 subs. I'm also on Kick at Mello TV. I co-stream there, and yeah.
Everybody check him out. On YouTube and on Kick. You still doing Twitch as well?
Oh yeah, I'm still on Twitch too. Yeah, it's Twitch. If you have a Twitch Prime, hey, if you have Amazon Prime, you can connect your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You get a free sub. Twitch Prime. You can find me at Mello TTV, which is kind of redundant, but yeah, it's TTV, Twitch. But yeah,
Mello TTV on TTV. Hey, it works.
Yeah,
it works. I appreciate you for joining me, man. I appreciate it greatly, and everybody else who is here, we appreciate the support. Everybody sending a power chat or a super chat, we appreciate it. I appreciate it. NAV appreciates it. And we hope to continue the Groyper takeover of the new American vision. In fact, I think it's already done. Zeb's the only thing left standing, and it's only a matter of time. But with that, though, thank you all for being here. As always, Christ is king, as always. And if anything, and never let it be missed, that is the most important thing you should be turning and directing your attention to is the truth in life that is Jesus Christ. Without a doubt, you need to be going to church, you need to be having your heads in your Bibles, and you need to be orienting yourself around the life and truth again that is the living word of God. And beyond that, If we can't get any deportations, we're going to go ahead and get some impeachment. So voting blue, down ticket, don't care who it is, Newsom, black woman, doesn't matter. Get in there, impeach these people, let's see the corruption, and let's weaken the GOP brand to have any kind of sense of hope towards 2028. In the sense that we can obviously weaken the GOP in its entirety and perhaps get a third party, not a literal third party, but a non-establishment candidate in there to hopefully carry the reins, or at least be better than what we have. So with that, appreciate you all. We'll see you next time. And you guys have a good one. I'm missing the outro scene. Where's the outro scene? No. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Where do you stand politically? Give us your political ideology.
Okay, I can say anything I want.
Yeah, bro. Say where? Yeah.
I don't know, the day-to-day stuff, I'm like, yeah, more bullshit. Another white girl got stabbed to death? Of course she did. What do you expect? For my politics, I just watch America First with Nick Fuentes.
Okay.
I consider myself a Groyper. Sometimes I just wait to hear Nick's take to make sure I have the right take before I make videos, you know? So, yeah, I just go with what Nick says. I just defer all my political opinions to Nick Fuentes at this point. I'm America First. I wish that we had white Christian men running the country. It's unbelievable to me that we have a government that has a policy other than America First. How does that make any sense? We pay taxes, like, use our taxes to benefit the country that we live in.